Chapter 492. A powerhouse from the Imperial Road mystic realm could fly at a terrifying speed. In less than 2 to 4 hours, the Azura Duke brought Long Yu and Rin Pingfan back to the vicinity of Azura Valley. What surprised Long Yu was that in the sky near the Azura Valley, there was a group of 1,000 people hovering in the air, as if they were waiting for their return. Azura Yongchang, the Undying Duke. When the Azura Duke brought the two of them closer, the group of more than 1,000 people instantly shouted out. Their voices shook the heavens, almost shattering Long Yu's eardrums. This power, no wonder they're here to welcome the Imperial Road Hidden Territory cultivators. When Long Yu saw this situation, his heart couldn't help but tremble. He saw that at the head of the crowd, there were many familiar people. For example, Shuchan. Her eyebrows were curved. Her charming face was filled with a smile as she looked at him. Near the Princess Shuchan was a veiled woman in a silver dress. She held a silver mirror and waited in the crowd. She was one of the Azura Duke's concubines, Yinjing. However, she wasn't Shu Chan's biological mother. Aside from these two, Tian Xinghe, Bai Qing, and the others that Long Yu had met before were also there. It was obvious that the Duke's expedition to the Ghost Evil County was a big event for the entire Azura Valley. Almost all the important people were here. Everyone, this time, with the help of Concubine Mirror, I injured the Ghost Evil County Duke. He won't be able to recover for at least 10 years. With a smile on his face, the Shura Prefecture King flew closer to the crowd and announced the result of this battle. After the Shura selection ends in 2 months, I will prepare to conquer the Nightmare Mountain Range in the Ghost Evil County and make the entire Nightmare Mountain Range part of our Shura County. Azura Yongchang, the Undying Duke. Hearing this, the crowd cheered even louder. They all hated the Ghost Evil County for a long time. Now that they heard that the Azura Duke injured the Ghost Evil County Duke, they were all excited. However, there were some people in the crowd who didn't look too good. They seemed to be out of tune with the people around them. Long Yu also notices this group of people. He squints his eyes. There are more than 10 people in this group. Each of them looks a bit like Zhou, Xiongliang, and Zhou Li. It seems that they all belong to the Zhou family. The leader of the group was clad in golden armor. He had a majestic stature and a crescent blade hung from his waist. He was the leader of the Zhou family. Of course, he was the Zhou family's patriarch, the deputy commander of the Azura Valley's Imperial Army, Zhou Fong. At this moment, Zhou Fong was glaring angrily at Long Yu, as if he had a big problem with Long Yu. After all, the news of Long Yu killing his son, Zhou Xiongliang, had reached his ears a few days ago. How could he not hate Long Yu? Of Zhou Fong's 4 sons, 2 had already died, and it was impossible for him to avenge them. Now that another one had died, he was furious to the extreme. If it wasn't for the Azura Duke, Zhou Fong definitely wouldn't let Long Yu go. Of course, Zhou Fong wouldn't act rashly unless he was tired of living. What a joke. Would he dare to touch a young man that the Azura Duke had taken a liking to? In Azura County, the Duke was the undisputed ruler. Everyone else had to obey the Duke. Otherwise, they wouldn't have a good ending. Commander Zhou, you don't look too good. Is there a problem? The Azura Duke naturally noticed Zhou Fong's gloomy expression. He glanced at him and asked calmly, "May I be so bold as to ask how Zhou Li is doing?" The deputy commander of the Imperial Army, Zhou Fong, immediately bowed in response to the Azura Duke's question. The Devil Legion's deputy general, Zhou Li, colluded with the Duke of Ghost Evil to frame General Huiyuan Bai. This is a traitor, and he has been executed by me, the Azura Duke said bluntly. The faces of the Zhou family darkened at his words. Although Zhou Li was the culprit, there might be other members of the Zhou family involved. If Zhou Li was killed just like that, the people behind him would be in grave danger. Of course, the Azura Duke didn't have any evidence, so he couldn't kill all the Zhou family members in one fell swoop. However, there were still some clues that could be found. There might be more victims in the near future. When the Silver Mirror returned, everyone roughly understood the situation. It turned out the Human Tribulation Realm kid, Long Yu, had saved General Huiyuan Bai. This shocked everyone. The Zhou family hated Long Yu to the core. After all, Zhou plans had all been ruined by Long Yu. If Long Yu didn't have the great desolate level combat weapon, the ancient dragon bone tower, how could the Duke of Ghost Evil not have killed Hui Yuanbai? As long as Hui Yuanbai died, there would be no evidence. The Duke of Ghost Evil would have enough evidence to prove that Hui Yuanbai had betrayed Shura County. Unfortunately, under the protection of Long Yu's ancient dragon bone tower, Hui Yuanbai was safe. Even the Duke of Ghost Evil had failed to destroy the ancient dragon bone tower in a short period of time. The Liang counties Yangguan and Yangkong would never be able to do it. In this battle, the young hero Long Yu, although he hasn't been in Azura County for long, he displayed outstanding courage and insight, as well as outstanding combat talent. Furthermore, he protected great General Hui Yuanbai from death. The Azura Duke took out a shining medal. It looked like a precious diamond. This was a first-class medal. It represented the honor of Shura County and was also a heaven-level combat weapon. In the entire Shura County, Long Yu was the first person to receive a first-class medal at such a young age. Many people were jealous of him. A first-class medal was the proof of honor, and it represented the Azura Duke's protection. If Long Yu had been killed by someone else on a normal day, the Azura Duke would definitely avenge him. Whoever killed Long Yu would definitely pay with their life. There would be no mercy. This made the faces of the Zhou family members even darker. Now that Long Yu had a first-class medal, it would not be easy for them to kill Long Yu. However, in the end, Long Yu could not sit back and relax. Normally, Long Yu was protected by the Azura Duke, but under certain circumstances, he could not be protected. For example, when he was participating in the Shura selection, or when he was participating in a group training mission. If Long Yu was killed, the Azura Duke would not seek revenge for Long Yu. After all, if he was absolutely safe, it would have a negative impact on Long Yu's cultivation. Also, if Long Yu was protected during the Shura selection, it would be unfair to the others. All right, you can all go now. The Azura Duke waved his hand, and the group of over 1,000 people dispersed. Before they left, they were still chattering. The fact that Duke Guaxia was injured this time was a good thing for all the cultivators in Shura County. On top of that, a human tribulation realm young cultivator had saved General Hui Yuanbai's life, and even received a first-class medal from the Azura Duke. It was shocking. It seemed like another young cultivator in Shura County was about to rise. The Shura Prefecture King handed the first-class medal to Long Yu, smiled, and said, "This first-class medal, other than being a symbol of honor, it also represents the protection of me, the Shura Prefecture King. It is also a high-ranked, heaven-ranked combat weapon, and its defensive capabilities are not bad. You can take a good look at it." Thank you, Senior Duke. Long Yu nodded and took the first-class medal. He discovered that the entire medal was actually sparkling with a diamond-like brilliance. The whole thing was actually made of cyan diamond, and there were even more precious materials added to it. The defensive ability of such a medal was definitely much stronger than the silver prism lock that Long Yu had previously obtained. After all, the silver prism lock that Hui Yuanbai had forged himself was only an earth upper-grade lock, and it was only slightly mixed with a green diamond. But this first-class medal was basically made of green-edge diamond. One could imagine its sturdiness. In this medal, apart from the cyan-edge diamond, there's also a resplendent diamond. The Azura Duke looked at Long Yu, who seemed to be studying the medal. He smiled and explained, "The resplendent diamond is a supplementary material used to forge desolate grade warrior weapons. It is extremely rare and rarely used on heaven-grade warriors. This first-class medal represents the honor of Azura County. Therefore, it is impossible for martial cultivators who have not reached the Emperor Path Arcane Realm to destroy it. As for how strong the defensive barrier is, it will depend on your personal strength." Long Yu nodded. Now he knew another precious material, the resplendent diamond, was actually a supplementary material used to forge desolate grade warrior weapons. Unfortunately, the entire Azura County seemed to be unable to forge desolate grade warrior weapons. This supplementary material could only be used to forge heaven-grade, upper-grade, first-class medals. Also, this warrior weapon is for you to play with. After the Azura Duke finished his explanation, he took out a Blood Shadow war flag from the space combat weapon in his robes. This flag was obtained from Deputy General Zhou Li and was kept by the Azura Duke. Long Yu remembered that this was a heaven-grade superior grade warrior weapon, which was even higher than a first-class medal. Let me play with it? Long Yu took the Blood Shadow war flag doubtfully. Going to the Heaven Prison Thunderbolt pool to look for your father is just a piece of cake for me. Compared to what you have done this time, a first-class medal is still a little lacking. I will make up for it with this Blood Shadow war flag. The Azura Duke's lips curled up slightly. Then, a dark cloud rolled over and brought him and Jing away. At this moment, Shu Chan finally flew in front of Long Yu while giggling. You're really something. The young county princess patted Long Yu's shoulder and giggled. You've only been gone for a few days, and you've already done such a great thing. Even I didn't expect this. That Zhou Li was just courting death. Chapter 493. Little Fatty followed behind Long Yu, feeling a little unbalanced. However, on second thought, he really hadn't done much in the entire incident. He had only followed Long Yu and hid in the ancient Dragon Bone Tower. Thinking about it this way, he really hadn't contributed much. Ping Fan, my father, just asked me to inform you to go to the main hall later. He has something to talk to you about. Just as Little Fatty was feeling a little unbalanced, Shu Chan suddenly said to him. This sentence made Little Fatty Rin Ping Fan overjoyed. Hee, all right, your highness. That was to say, even if he hadn't contributed much, he had still put in a lot of effort. Moreover, Long Yu had only been able to reach the Ghost Evil region so quickly because he had steered the Azura spirit boat. Your highness, this is for you. Long Yu thought for a moment, then took out the Azura spirit boat from the ancient Dragon Bone Tower and handed it to Shu Chan. This was Shu Chan's thing. He couldn't just swallow it like that. No need to return it to me. You can use it yourself. I have many good things, otherwise I wouldn't have given it to you. The little princess, Shu Chan, however, waved her hand and didn't accept it. Long Yu thought about it and agreed. Since Shu Chan didn't want the Azura spirit boat, then he would take it. In any case, this little princess didn't lack good things. In this way, Long Yu had obtained many good things on this trip to the Nightmare Mountains. Not only had he dug up over 100 cyan edge diamonds of the Nightmare Mountains, what Yuan Bai had also given him an Earth-grade combat weapon, Silver Edge Lock. Now, he had directly obtained 3 powerful Heaven-grade combat weapons. The bountiful harvest made Little Fatty's eyes red with envy. Long Yu was secretly amused at the sight. He actually wanted to give the Blood Shadow war flag that he had no use for to Rin Ping Fan. However, when he thought about it, the Azura Duke had called Rin Ping Fan to the main hall to give him a reward. There was no need for Long Yu to give him the Blood Shadow war flag. In comparison, the Shura general election was about to begin, and Long Yu was likely to meet his old friends from Heavenly Mandate Island. It seemed better to give them the Blood Shadow war flag. After all, the little fatty Rin Ping Fan had been with the princess Shu Chan for a long time, so he must have a lot of good stuff with him. However, those friends of Long Yu on the Heavenly Mandate Island didn't even have Earth-level soldiers. With this thought in mind, Long Yu dispelled this idea and put away the Azura spirit boat and the Blood Shadow war flag. Princess, little brother Long, I'll be going to see the regional king now. I'll take my leave first. When the little fatty Rin Ping Fan saw that Long Yu had put away so many good things, he couldn't help but feel an itch in his heart. He was anxious to know what the Azura Duke would give him, so he immediately took his leave and flew toward the Azura Valley. Seeing the little fatty's impatience, Long Yu and Shu Chan looked at each other and smiled. Let's go back too, Shu Chan said to Long Yu and turned to leave. However, when she turned around, she saw many people blocking her way. She couldn't help but frown. The people blocking her and Long Yu were mainly Tian Xinghe, Bai Qing, and some of their subordinates. The two of them were full of smiles, which made Shu Chan embarrassed to reprimand them. She just asked, Eldest senior brother, fourth senior sister, what brings you here? When Tian Xinghe heard this, he smiled and said, Princess, why are you treating us like outsiders? We are here to congratulate little brother Long Yu on his great achievement in receiving a first-class medal. This is an honor that even we have never received. However, Bai Qing smiled charmingly and glanced at Long Yu. This Long Yu seems to be quite talented and strong. Most importantly, he is very smart. Princess, you have a good eye. After the two of them finished talking, a man in gray who wore simple clothes scratched his head and smiled. Princess, long time no see. The little princess, Shu Chan, did not have a good impression of Tian Xinghe and Bai Qing. However, when she saw the man in gray, her face lit up with joy. Third senior brother, you're back. Yes. The sturdy gray-robed man smiled as he nodded his head, after which he raised his head and looked at Long Yu. This little brother is not simple. He's even more powerful than me. He's so young, yet he's able to obtain the recognition of the royal duke and even obtained a first-class medal. Third senior brother, that's where you're wrong. Bai Qing smiled charmingly. No matter what, this Long Yu is just a subordinate. How can he be compared to you? Even if he is the princess's subordinate, he is no match for you. That may not be true. The man in gray shook his head and smiled. Long Yu, my name is Sahanshan. I look forward to meeting you at the Shura selection in 2 months. Hello, brother. Long Yu felt that Sahanshan was quite kind. He was much better than Tian Xinghe and Bai Qing. Also, it seemed that Sahanshan's martial realm was higher than Tian Xinghe and Bai Qing's. He had not seen Sahanshan recently. Maybe he was training outside. You're just a subordinate. What right do you have to call third senior brother? Seeing Long Yu's expression, Bai Qing felt that he deserved a beating. She pouted and said, Do you think you are great just because you received a first-class medal? And you are not just a Tribulation Realm kid. Hearing this, Long Yu narrowed his eyes. He did not know what was going on with Bai Qing. Why did she dislike him so much? As soon as they met, she asked her subordinate to challenge him. However, she was defeated by the talented Long Yu. Now, even though Long Yu had been rewarded by the Shura Prefecture King, Bai Qing still disliked him. Could it be that she was jealous of him? Long Yu thought that Bai Qing was probably jealous of the princess, Shu Chan. However, she could not be rude to Shu Chan. That was why she was targeting him. This made Long Yu unhappy. Did he look so easy to bully? Without waiting for Shu Chan to speak, Long Yu stared at Bai Qing and said, Since you look down on me so much, why don't you let your subordinate fight me again? As long as it is an opponent in the Heaven Realm, I, Long Yu, will fight them all. Hee. Bai Qing smiled with disdain. So what if you beat my subordinate? Aren't you just a subordinate? I, Bai Qing, look down on you. Is that wrong? Fourth senior sister. At this time, Shu Chan finally spoke. She took a step forward and faced Bai Qing. At the same time, she said, Since you said so, how about we make a bet? In the Shura selection in 2 months, Long Yu's ranking will be higher than yours. Do you believe it? Haha, this brat wants to surpass me in the Shura selection? What wishful thinking. Bai Qing disdainfully smiled. Princess, since you took the initiative to say so, how can I, Bai Qing, refuse? Let's do it this way. If my ranking is lower than your subordinate, Long Yu, in the Shura selection, I, Bai Qing, will take a detour when I see him in the future. How about it? This is what you said. If Long Yu defeats you, you're not allowed to appear wherever he is. Shu Chan narrowed her eyes. It's a deal. I, Bai Qing, will naturally keep my promise. However, what if Long Yu loses? Bai Qing stared at Long Yu and said coldly, Then I will take a detour when I see you. Long Yu said casually, Since it was a bet, the stakes should be relatively fair. To be honest, there was nothing wrong with the stakes being the same. However, Bai Qing was unhappy. I, Bai Qing, as the regional king's disciple, made a bet with you. It is your honor. If you lose, do you think this is acceptable? Bai Qing said indifferently and looked at Shu Chan. Princess, my request is not excessive. If Long Yu loses, you could just ask him a hand over the first-class medal. This request is not excessive? Sahanshan, who was standing to the side, blushed with shame. He felt that his fourth junior sister wasn't being honest. He immediately said, Fourth junior sister, the first-class medal is given by the regional king himself. How can it be casually used in a bet? How about this, if Brother Long loses to you? I, Sahan's Han, will take it. Third senior brother, you, Bai Qing frowned. She didn't expect Sohan's Han to say this. I, Sohan's Han, don't have anything else. However, if Brother Long loses to you, I, Sahan's Han, will owe you a request. Fourth junior sister, I will do anything for this request. How about it? Sahan's Han said resolutely. Okay, it's a deal. A cold light flashed in Bai Qing's eyes. She thought, third brother, since you trust Long Yu so much, I will crush him in the Shura selection and make you regret it. Hee, a small bet is good for the mood, but a big bet is bad for the body. We're just adjusting our mood. Princess, don't mind it too much. Tian Xinghe smiled and said, if there's nothing else, Xinghe will leave first. Okay, have a good trip. Shu Chan said indifferently as she glanced at the Heavenly Star River. She mainly observed the Heavenly Star River's eyes. Tian Xinghe seemed to have noticed something. He smiled and turned around to leave with his subordinates. Remember your bet. Bai Qing looked at Long Yu and smiled disdainfully. Then she turned around and left with her subordinates. Princess, if you have time, come visit me. Long time no see. You're getting more and more beautiful. Ha! Sahan's Han said straightforwardly. Then he looked at Long Yu and said, Brother Long, if you have the chance, come with me. I will definitely take good care of you. Of course. Shu Chan looked at Sahan's Han and smiled sincerely. She really admired Sahan's Han. He trained hard and always went out to experience the world. His goal was to increase his martial realm and battle experience. He was much better than Tian Xinghe and Bai Qing, who were idling in Shura Valley. Sahan's Han also left alone. Only Long Yu and Shu Chan were left in the sky. They looked at the back of the crowd. After a while, they disappeared from their sight. How is it? Long Yu, did you see Tian Xinghe's eyes? Was it him? Shu Chan suddenly asked. His eyes are very similar. It can even be said that they are exactly the same. However, there is nothing in common in other places and temperament. Long Yu thought for a while and shook his head. Chapter 494. As for Shu Chan's question, Long Yu obviously knew what she meant. As one of Shu Chan's subordinates, Long Yu was tricked into entering the valley where the Azura sacred tree was. If it weren't for Long Yu having a treasure like the Dragon Bone Tower, he would have already been killed by the Azura sacred tree. With something like this happening, Shu Chan naturally wanted to find out who the culprit was. These past few days, aside from trying to break through to 4 Thaumaturgy realm, she also investigated who had the authority to open the valley barrier where the Azura sacred tree was. I went to ask my father and found out that eldest senior brother Tian Xinghe had a younger brother called Tian Yuehe, but this person should have died 10 years ago. He was the same as Tian Xinghe, an orphan raised by my father, but he didn't take him as a disciple, Shu Chan said with a frown. Tian Yuehe is Tian Xinghe's younger brother. Long Yu also frowned, then asked, if this person is still alive, then it's most likely him. Princess, how did Tian Yue die? He was killed by an official of the Tianqing dynasty while he was training outside. Shu Chan shook her head. My father also confirmed this, so it shouldn't be wrong. Maybe he's still alive. A cold light flashed in Long Yu's eyes. Right now, Long Yu was almost certain that Tian Yuehe was still alive, and that even the Azura Duke didn't know about it. As for why Tian Xinghe hid this information, it was obviously because he wanted Tian Yuehe to hide in the shadows and do some unspeakable things. This kind of method was very common for Long Yu. As for Tian Yuehe's death, in a chaotic place like Shenwu World, it could be easily fabricated. I don't know yet, but Long Yu, I have high hope for you in the Azura selection in 2 months. Shu Chan's eyes flashed with a mischievous glint as she looked at Long Yu with a smile. You can't let me down. You have to be ranked above 4th senior sister. Speaking of this, Long Yu felt a little strange. Originally, he only wanted to provoke Bai Qing and have her send another subordinate to challenge him. However, he didn't expect that Shu Chan would directly follow up and shift the battlefield to the Azura selection. Princess, what are the rules of the Azura selection? How we rank them? Long Yu was somewhat puzzled as he asked. I still don't know the rules, so I don't have any confidence in beating Bai Qing. No matter what was said, Bai Qing was already an expert in the divine ability secret realm. It wouldn't be easy for Long Yu to deal with her. Moreover, it was impossible for Long Yu to break through to the divine ability secret realm in 2 short months. At most, it would be good if he could reach Heaven Realm. If he fought against Bai Qing head-on, he would definitely lose. In fact, he would not even be able to fight back. Under such circumstances, Shu Quan actually helped him make a bet with Bai Qing. There must be some special rules of the Azure selection. Long Yu knew that since Shu Quan had said it, he still had a chance of beating Bai Qing. Therefore, he followed Shu Quan's words and continued to make a bet with Bai Qing. But now, he was really curious about the rules of the Azure selection. The Azure selection is very simple. Shu Quan's eyes curved into crescent moons as if she had thought of something funny. As long as you are a martial cultivator in the Azure County under the age of 40, you can participate in the Azure selection. In the end, the top 100 experts will be qualified to enter the Azure County's holy land and obtain great opportunities. As for the specific rules, the first round is to test your attributes. The second round is to fight with your mirror clone. Only by defeating your mirror clone will you be qualified to participate in the third round. As for the rules of the third round, all qualified martial cultivators will enter a dream world and fight in the dream world. At this point, a crafty glint flashed in Shu Quan's eyes. Long Yu, this dream realm is practically tailor-made for you. In this dream realm, all martial cultivators will be forcefully suppressed to the early human realm. In other words, even if a divine ability realm expert enters this dream realm, they will only have the strength of the early human realm. Forcefully suppress one's cultivation? Long Yu raised his eyebrows. This was the first time he had heard of such a thing. After all, this is a dream realm. Anything can happen. Forcefully suppressing the cultivation of martial cultivators isn't impossible. Shu Quan's expression was slightly gloomy. This dream realm was created by my mother in the past. Unfortunately, an accident happened to my mother right after she finished creating it. I see. Long Yu nodded. Seeing that Shu Quan wasn't in a good mood, he didn't say anything else. However, Shu Quan quickly adjusted her mood and smiled at Long Yu. All right, there are 2 months left for you to prepare. I heard that you have passed the 3 heart tribulations of the human tribulation realm. Try to break through to the early heaven realm in these 2 months. Yes, Your Highness. Long Yu nodded in agreement. Of course, Long Yu wasn't willing to be someone else's subordinate. Unruliness was his most fundamental character. However, Shu Quan didn't put on any airs when dealing with him. He didn't need to be on tenterhooks when communicating with Shu Quan. It was quite relaxing for him to think more about trivial things. Because of this, Long Yu tacitly agreed to be Shu Quan's subordinate. However, when Long Yu's martial arts realm reached a certain level, he definitely wouldn't be willing to be Shu Quan's subordinate. Long Yu had already vaguely expressed this to Shu Quan. At that time, Long Yu said that he was very ambitious, but Shu Quan didn't care. Instead, she said that she was also very ambitious, which puzzled Long Yu. Soon, Long Yu returned to the elegant and tranquil courtyard that Shu Quan arranged for him. This time, Long Yu absolutely wouldn't run out rashly unless he saw Shu Quan. Moreover, he still had to seize the time to break through the bottleneck and improve his realm. He didn't have so much time to wander around. After Shu Quan sent him back, she left, and Long Yu directly took the Great Desolate Grade Pill, the Worldly Golden Pill, in the courtyard. The Worldly Golden Pill contained more spiritual energy than the 9 Heaven Grade Pills of the Heaven 9 Universe pill combined. If Long Yu didn't have the Nether Dragon Blade to store the spiritual energy of heaven and earth, he would definitely only be able to absorb less than 20% of it. But now, he could rely on the Nether Void Dragon Blade to store the spiritual energy of heaven and earth within the mortal golden core. And when he needed to use it, he could slowly absorb it. It was extremely convenient, and he could make full use of it without a trace of wastage. This was a reward given to Bai Qing by the Azure Duke after she had performed a meritorious deed. Unfortunately, she had lost it to Long Yu because of a bet. Amazing. After taking the Worldly Golden Pill, Long Yu felt his whole body bathed in the rich spiritual energy of heaven and earth, and his whole body felt extremely comfortable. He used most of the spiritual energy of heaven and earth to refine the veins of heaven and earth. Soon, he felt that the connection between the veins of heaven and earth became closer, and it was rapidly transforming. The difference between the human realm and the heavenly realm in the heavenly realm was that once a martial cultivator stepped into the heavenly realm, they could borrow the power of the laws of heaven and earth more than tenfold. A heavenly origin martial cultivator had no problem dealing with 10 ordinary human tribulation martial cultivators. From this, one could see the changes that would occur when one stepped into the heavenly realm. And the key to this was the veins of heaven. The veins of heaven were the most important thing for a martial cultivator to improve in the martial Tao. The key to improving the martial Tao was to improve the compatibility between the veins of heaven and earth. As a matter of fact, when a martial cultivator had not stepped into the heavenly realm, the veins of heaven and earth should not be called veins of heaven. They should be called human veins. In essence, the veins of heaven and earth were only connected to the heavens and earth, and could not be merged with it. If the veins of heaven and earth could be completely merged with the heavens and earth, they could be called veins of heaven. The veins of heaven and earth could be used to borrow the terrifying power of the laws of heaven and earth in an instant. Long Yu did not feel the terror of a heavenly realm expert before, because he had comprehended the strongest law in the world, the law of 9 serenities, as well as the divine rune with the word serenity. He also possessed various martial skills and battle weapons, which allowed him to crush heavenly realm experts. But now, when Long Yu personally tried to merge the veins of heaven and earth, the feeling made him feel extremely comfortable, and he could not stop even if he wanted to. At this moment, he felt like he had turned into a tiny blade of grass, drifting with the wind in a vast sky. He could feel the terrifying power of the laws of heaven and earth in the air. Sunlight, growth, water flow, wind, everything contained the power of the laws of heaven and earth. As long as one could master the laws of heaven and earth, it meant that he had comprehended the truth of the world. Through the veins of heaven and earth, he could borrow the power of the laws of heaven and earth. In just 3 days and 3 nights, Long Yu had broken through the bottleneck and successfully merged the veins of heaven and earth with the heavens and earth, turning the veins of heaven and earth into a real veins of heaven. Law of 9 serenities. Long Yu stood up and threw a punch with the power of the laws of 9 serenities. He immediately felt that the power of this punch was more than 10 times stronger than before. As he threw the punch, the surrounding air seemed to be corroded by the 9 serenities chi, and a pitch-black 9 serenities chi instantly spread out along with his punch. With this punch, Long Yu was confident that he could use it to fight against a heavenly flower realm expert. Of course, if he wanted to fight against a heavenly tribulation realm expert, Long Yu still had to use a great desolate martial technique and combat weapon. Otherwise, the difference in their basic strength would be too great, and it would be impossible for him to win. During the Azure selection, the dreamscape forcefully suppressed the cultivation of all martial cultivators to the human origin realm. This is undoubtedly a great advantage for me. Long Yu thought to himself. He had never been afraid of anyone in the same realm as him. Although he did not know what the final ranking was based on, since Shu Chan had already explained the basic rules of the dreamscape, there should not be any big problems. Chapter 495. After Long Yu reached the heaven realm, his overall strength had increased tremendously. Although he was still unable to fight against experts in the divinity realm, he was one of the strongest among those in the heavenly being realm. Even ordinary heavenly tribulation realm martial cultivators were no match for him. Then, without wasting any time, he began to comprehend the ancient primordial shadow kill. The Azura selection forcefully suppressed everyone's cultivation to the human initial realm, and then allowed them to fight in the dreamscape. The final ranking would definitely be related to the fights. In that case, Long Yu had to comprehend the ancient primordial shadow kill as soon as possible. If he could improve this desolate level assassination martial skill and form a second ancient primordial shadow before the Azure selection, Long Yu's combat strength would double. Every ancient primordial shadow's combat strength was equivalent to Long Yu's. At most, they could not duplicate the battle weapon, but they were almost identical in other aspects. If Long Yu could form two ancient primordial shadow kill, it would mean that there were three Long Yus fighting enemies at the same time. One could imagine how powerful it would be. Moreover, as an assassination martial skill, the ancient primordial shadow kill could strengthen the effects of the hidden divine rune once it was comprehended to the greater mastery realm, allowing him to hide himself better. He did not know if fighting in the dreamscape would really be life-threatening, but no matter what, he had to kill more to get a higher ranking. If he wanted to kill more, the most important thing was to live longer. To Long Yu, survival was far more important than killing. In his mind, survival had always been his number one priority. The best way to comprehend martial skills was not through seclusion, but through actual combat. In the absence of actual combat, sparring with experts was also a good method. However, if one really wanted to train, even sparring would have to be an extremely intense battle, which was still quite dangerous. At that moment, Long Yu thought of the little fatty Ren Pingfan who lived next door. Ren Pingfan had obtained a chance to enter the higher levels of the martial skill tower from the Azure Prefecture King and chose an acquired divine skill. Even though experts in the secret realm of divinity could learn innate mystic arts, they were basically their trump cards and they consumed a lot of energy. If it was not necessary, they would only use acquired skills to fight against their enemies. The so-called acquired skills were martial arts techniques that could be activated by the power of the divine text, such as the heavenly mandate divine light that Long Yu had learned. It just so happened that Ren Pingfan had quickly mastered the acquired divine ability and happily agreed to spar with Long Yu. During the spar, he would only use the power of the heavenly beginner stage and not the power of the divine ability secret realm. For the next few days, Long Yu would spar with Ren Pingfan, constantly improving his comprehension of various martial skills during the spar. Right now, Long Yu basically only used those few martial techniques. Underworld Dragon 9 Bursts and Desolate Ancient Shadow Kill were desolate grade martial techniques. Naturally, they were the strongest martial techniques that he had comprehended. Other than that, the only martial techniques he knew were the heavenly mandate divine light, Underworld Drunken, and Samsara Awakening, as well as a movement technique, Dance of the Dragon Sparrow. There was a total of 6 martial skills, and every single one of them was extremely powerful. Even the top-grade mortal tier and top-grade spirit tier martial skills, such as Lying Drunk in the Yellow Springs and Awakening Samsara Palm, did not have much power in battle, but they each had their own unique uses. For example, the Yellow Springs realm of Drunk, lying in the Yellow Springs could raise one's strength. Another example was the Samsara power of Awakening, which could allow Long Yu to see the future to a certain extent. From there, he could deepen his comprehension of various martial techniques. During the spar, apart from practicing his martial techniques, Long Yu also held the Netherworld Dragon Blade in his hand and continued to deepen his affinity with the ancient grade combat weapon. The Netherworld Dragon Blade was an ancient grade combat weapon, a level higher than a desolate grade combat weapon. It was probably the only one in the entire Shura Prefecture. If he could harmonize with the Netherworld Dragon Blade, he would be able to exert greater power and even develop self-awareness. For Long Yu, it would be a great improvement in his strength. However, it was not easy to harmonize with a combat weapon. It was even more difficult to harmonize with an ancient grade combat weapon. During the spar, Long Yu's understanding of martial techniques became deeper and deeper, and his coordination with the Netherworld Dragon Blade became smoother and smoother. At the same time, Ren Pingfan also learned a lot. During the spar with Long Yu, Ren Pingfan had to maintain only the power of the heavenly being's secret realm. In the long run, he would be able to control his power more precisely, and thus be able to exert better effects with certain martial techniques. His understanding of the acquired divine ability had also improved by leaps and bounds. In the beginning, little fatty Rin Pingfan realized that he was not a match for Long Yu at all if he suppressed his strength to the heavenly origin grade. Later on, he no longer cared so much about it. It was fine as long as he didn't use the power of the divine power secret realm. Even if he used the power of the heavenly tribulation grade, Long Yu was still able to resist him, which made him click his tongue in amazement. Such powerful martial arts talent and battle prowess were rarely seen in the entire Shura Prefecture. Long Yu was probably the only person in the entire Shura Prefecture who had the ability to suppress an opponent 2 levels higher than him. Even the young county princess, Shu-chan, could only fight an opponent 1 level higher than her. She still couldn't suppress her opponent. After all, she didn't cultivate a desolate grade martial technique. It was already very impressive for her to fight an opponent 1 level higher than her, with just her powerful divine power and the desolate grade combat weapon. Day after day, a month passed by in the blink of an eye. At this time, Long Yu was finally able to form 2 desolate afterimages. In addition to his original body, there were a total of 3 Long Yu fighting at the same time, and the instantaneous burst of power was extremely terrifying. Moreover, he had finally comprehended the desolate grade martial technique, ancient desolate shadow kill, to the lesser mastery stage. He could burst out with unparalleled speed in a short period of time and use it to close in on the enemy. This technique was called Shadow Burst. Once it was used, the speed was several times faster than the Dragon Sparrow instant space. It could be said that if this technique was used together with the Void Nether Dragon Blade, it would only take an instant to kill an opponent. Even a heavenly tribulation grade martial cultivator standing in front of Long Yu wouldn't be able to withstand his attack. Of course, that was when the opponent was unprepared. Even so, Long Yu already had enough qualifications to be proud. To be able to instantly kill a martial arts expert 2 levels higher than him, Rin Pingfan had never heard of such a thing in his entire life. Apart from improvement of the ancient desolate shadow kill, Long Yu had also learned a long time ago Samsara Awakening, which had finally reached the Transcendent stage from the Perfection stage. The Samsara Awakening in the Transcendent stage could use the power of Samsara to form a Samsara sword. Little fatty Rin Pingfan had personally tested that as long as the Samsara sword landed on the body, the endless power of Samsara would surge into the body and forcibly cause the opponent to temporarily drop the martial realm. Originally, it was difficult for Long Yu to use Samsara Awakening to cause the opponent to drop the cultivation realm. After all, it was only a spirit-level martial technique. But now that he had comprehended Samsara Awakening to the Transcendent stage, the Samsara Sword was born. The effect of causing the opponent to drop the cultivation realm appeared once again, and this made Long Yu overjoyed. Although it didn't have much effect on those in the mystic state, this made Long Yu look forward to it even more. If he could comprehend Samsara Awakening to the Transcendent stage, how powerful would it be? It was inevitable for 2 people to be injured in a spar. During this process, Long Yu had finally comprehended 10% of the self-healing divine rune and siphon divine rune's power. This was 10 times more than before. His body's self-healing ability was even stronger than before, and the effects of the siphon divine rune had also become extremely obvious. Every time the little fatty encountered Long Yu's siphon divine rune, he had to erupt with the strength of the mystic state in order to break free. This showed how disgusting the siphon divine rune was. Rin Pingfan said that with just the power of this divine rune, Long Yu could defeat most Heavenly Tribulation Realm experts. This was because Heavenly Tribulation Realm cultivators had no way of resisting the power of the siphon divine rune. Once their power was absorbed by the siphon divine rune, what else could they use to fight against Long Yu? It could be said that in a short month, Long Yu's strength had increased by a lot again. The only pity was that he hadn't been able to resonate with the Void Underworld Dragon Blade after so many sparring sessions. Since the Void Underworld Dragon Blade was an ancient combat weapon, he didn't know if there were any special conditions that had to be met in order to be compatible with it. Long Yu could only guess about this. He couldn't confirm it, so he could only put it to the back of his mind for now. After sparring with Ren Pingfan for a month, Long Yu felt that his comprehension of martial techniques had reached a bottleneck. Perhaps it was time for him to change his sparring partner. It was also at this time that news spread from Azura Valley. The young princess, Shu Chan, had finally broken through to the mystic state, becoming the youngest expert in Azura County's history to do so. Long Yu immediately sent a letter to congratulate her. At the same time, he invited Shu Chan to spar with him. He wanted to test the young princess's comprehension of martial techniques, divine runes, and other powers. When Shu Chan received Long Yu's letter, she agreed without hesitation. No one saw the devilish smile on her face. On this day, as usual, Ren Pingfan came to a small training ground near the courtyard. Usually, only Shu Chan's people would come to this training ground. Little brother Long, you're here so early. I'm sorry, I'm late. Hee hee. Ren Pingfan ran over and discovered that Long Yu was already preparing on the small martial arts practice field. He could not help but feel a little ashamed, but also a little strange. After all, Long Yu and he had sparred together in the past, but today he had arrived early. Brother Fatty, I forgot to tell you. I have an appointment with the princess today. Long Yu suddenly remembered that he hadn't told Ren Pingfan that he was going to spar with Shu Chan. He felt a little awkward. You have an appointment with the princess? Little fatty Ren Pingfan was shocked. You have an appointment with the princess? Did the princess agree to it? What are you thinking? I'm just sparring with the princess. Long Yu looked at little fatty doubtfully. Chapter 496. In the following month, Long Yu began sparring with Shu Chan, exchanging pointers with Shu Chan increased Long Yu's comprehension of his martial techniques even faster. This was because Shu Chan, this little county lord, was extremely cunning. She was unscrupulous in battle. Even though she suppressed her cultivation to the heavenly origin realm, she was still able to fight evenly with Long Yu. This was something that the little fatty Ren Pingfan could not do. Because of this, Long Yu kept sparring with Shu Chan and left Ren Pingfan behind, which made the little fatty extremely resentful. One must know that sparring with Long Yu had benefited him a lot. But soon, the little fatty no longer had any worries. Because the Azura selection was approaching, the other subordinates of Shu Chan had also returned from training one after another. Ren Pingfan had previously told Long Yu that, including Long Yu, Shu Chan had a total of 7 subordinates. Calling them subordinates was not very appropriate. In fact, Shu Chan had always regarded them as friends. It was just that they felt that they had received Shu Chan's protection and help, so they naturally regarded themselves as Shu Chan's subordinates. Soon, the eldest of Shu Chan's subordinates returned from training. He was an extremely boorish man who was about 35 years old and had already reached the 5 Paths divinity realm. The eldest was called Xing Wu. He cultivated body-tempering martial techniques and possessed extremely terrifying strength. Moreover, all the innate divinity he comprehended were related to body tempering. If he were to fight to the death with Shu Chan, even Shu Chan would not be Xing Wu's match. When Xing Wu returned, little fatty started sparring with Xing Wu. However, little fatty was trampled on every single time. Even though Xing Wu only used the same strength as little fatty in the divinity realm, he was still able to beat little fatty to a pulp. Xing Wu was quite friendly towards the newly joined Long Yu. Moreover, after suppressing his strength to the heavenly origin stage and sparring with Long Yu, he was full of praises for Long Yu. In that sparring match, Xing Wu was suppressed by Long Yu and eventually lost due to exhaustion. This made him realize how talented Long Yu was. Xing Wu quickly found out that Long Yu had received a first-class medal. His opinion of Long Yu grew even more favorable, and they soon began to address each other as brothers. Naturally, Xing Wu was Shu Chan's boss, and everyone called him the boss. As for Little Fatty, he was called Little 5. Long Yu was naturally called Little 7. After the big brother Xing Wu returned, the courtyard that Shu Chan owned became lively. Soon after, the second brother, Dugu Yijian, also returned from the outside world. He was also an expert of the 5 divine realms. However, he was rather cold and rarely spoke. He was only extremely respectful towards Shu Chan. It was said that his life was saved by Shu Chan, and he swore to follow Shu Chan to the death and work for Shu Chan. There were 3 other people who returned together. There were 2 women and 1 man. They were the 3rd brother, the 4th brother, and the 6th brother. Among them, the 3rd brother was called Jia Banxian. Although he was quite handsome, his wretchedness was comparable to that of little fatty Rin Pingfan. Everyone called him trickster. The 3rd brother, Jia Banxian, was a 4 divine realms cultivator. The innate mystiques he comprehended all had some predictive effects. It was not without reason that he was called trickster. As for the 4th brother, she was a woman called Xiao Zhu. She was in her 30s and had a cultivation of the 3 divine realms. She did not smile much and looked rather stern. However, she was extremely protective of her own people. Little 6 was a little girl called Xuan. She was about the same age as Shu Chan, and she had been Shu Chan's maidservant since she was young. She had an introverted personality, but her martial talent was extremely extraordinary. With the accumulation of resources, she had reached the 2 Daos divinity realm. All in all, out of the 7 subordinates of Shu Chan, including Long Yu, he was the only one who had not entered the divine realms. However, the other 6 were extremely shocked and impressed that Long Yu could obtain a first-class medal. As such, they did not underestimate him at all. In the last month before the Shura selection, Long Yu constantly sparred with others to improve his combat skills. At the same time, he gained some understanding of the battles between the divine realms. Long Yu learned that even in the Shura selection's dream world, the divine realm's martial arts expert's cultivation was forcefully suppressed to the human initial realm. However, they could still use innate mystiques. Therefore, the Shura selection was not completely fair to the innate mystiques. One must know that innate mystiques were much stronger than acquired mystiques. Their power was comparable to a grand desolate level martial skill. Of course, if one could comprehend a grand desolate level martial skill to a deeper level, it would definitely be stronger than innate mystiques. However, it was extremely difficult to obtain or comprehend a grand desolate level martial skill. After learning this information, Long Yu knew that his trump card in the Shura selection would most likely be the grand desolate level martial skill, Nether Dragon 9 Explosions. As for the ancient desolate shadow kill, he had only cultivated it for a short period of time. Apart from being able to form ancient desolate shadows, its assassination power was probably not comparable to the innate mystiques of the divine realms experts. In addition, Long Yu was also pondering whether he could use the reincarnation sword in the dream world to temporarily lower his opponent's martial realm. Even Long Yu had become famous in the entire Shura County for being able to obtain a first-class medal. Along the way, exclamations of admiration rose from all directions. Countless Jianghu martial cultivators, military martial cultivators, and so on all saluted Shu Chan. Furthermore, they also expressed their respect to Long Yu and the others. After all, the future of the Shura County depended on the younger generation. Although the Shura County king was powerful, it seemed difficult for him to improve his martial arts realm. Now, the talent that the young princess, Shu Chan, had displayed made countless people look forward to her creating a miracle in the Shura County. She wanted to surpass her father and make the Shura County the strongest county in the Tianqing dynasty. Even if she wanted to overthrow the Tianqing dynasty, as long as Shu Chan could improve her martial arts realm, anything was possible. Halfway through the journey, Long Yu raised his head and saw another group of people not far away. They were also heading toward the center of the Shura Valley. It was the group led by Tian Xinghe. Tian Xinghe was not yet 30 years old, but his martial arts realm had already reached the 5 Daos divinity realm. His martial arts talent was terrifying. On the other hand, because the Shura County king was his master, he could easily solve any problems he encountered in the martial arts. Compared to Tian Xinghe, Shu Chan's subordinate, Xing Wu, had only reached the 5 divinity realm at the age of 35, 5 years later. Even so, Xing Wu was one of the few geniuses in the Shura County. From this, it could be seen that Tian Xinghe's talent was highly valued by the Shura County king. Naturally, he was extraordinary. Ha! Congratulations on reaching the 4 divinity realm. During this period, I, Tian Xinghe, have been searching for opportunities to break through, so I did not send you a gift in time. Please forgive me. When Tian Xinghe saw Shu Chan and the others, he immediately laughed heartily. He held a red wooden box in his hand and handed it over to Shu Chan. County King, this is a small token of appreciation that Tian Xinghe prepared for you. Please accept it. Shu Chan narrowed her eyes and accepted the red wooden box. However, she did not open it. Many thanks, eldest senior brother. Long Yu, this is for you. Although I don't know what it is, something from eldest senior brother must be extraordinary. Shu Chan directly gave the red wooden box to Long Yu in front of Tian Xinghe. Her purpose was to let everyone know that she valued Long Yu. Moreover, a fellow who looked like Tian Xinghe had schemed against Long Yu. He had forced Long Yu into the valley where the Shura's sacred tree was, causing Long Yu to almost die. Shu Chan's action could be considered as giving Long Yu a temporary explanation. It also made Tian Xinghe understand, no matter what you did behind my back, I will seek justice for this matter for Long Yu. Chapter 497. Shu Chan had given Long Yu the red gift box that Tian Xinghe had given her. This was a direct slap to his face. Needless to say, Long Yu did not care about Tian Xinghe's feelings as he opened the red gift box with a smile. Once he opened it, Long Yu immediately laughed. It's just a cyan edge diamond. How can it catch the eye of the county princess? Even I don't think it's a treasure, let alone the county lord. Inside the red gift box was shockingly a fist-sized cyan diamond. The cyan edge diamond had a brilliant luster and was an excellent material for refining heaven-grade combat weapons. Furthermore, it was rare to find a fist-sized cyan edge diamond in the entire Shura County. Rin Pingfan, Xing Wu, Xiao Zhu, Jiao Banxian, and the others beside Shu Chan and Long Yu were shocked when they saw Long Yu opening the red gift box and seeing the fist-sized cyan edge diamond. Although the cyan edge diamond was not the best material for refining weapons in Shura County, Tian Xinghe's sincerity was evident from his gift of a fist-sized cyan edge diamond. For ordinary people, even a thumb-sized green diamond would be regarded as a treasure. But now, Long Yu had said that he was not interested in the cyan edge diamond, causing Tian Xinghe's expression to change again. Long Yu, I, Tian Xinghe, have seen you many times, but every time we meet, you surprise me. Tian Xinghe's tone was slightly gloomy. You said that a cyan edge diamond of this size is not a treasure, but you are not interested in it. I, Tian Xinghe, am very curious. Can you take out something better to gift the county lord? The moment he said this, the group of martial cultivators behind him started to jeer. That's right. Brother Tian searched the Nightmare Mountain range for a long time before he finally bought such a big cyan edge diamond at an extremely high price. A mere heaven origin stage, Brat dares to boast so shamelessly. What a joke. If you have the guts, then take out something even better for everyone to see. If you can't, then I'll make you apologize to our brother Tian. A group of people stared at Long Yu with unkind expressions. Even the other cultivators in the Azura Valley turned their gazes over, pointing fingers at him as they discussed among themselves. Such a green edge diamond is naturally nothing much. Long Yu remained calm and collected. He took out a green diamond that was also the size of a fist and said, "Look, I can easily take out something like this and give it to the princess." 2 fist-sized cyan rhombus diamonds flashed with a cyan light in Long Yu's hands, causing the eyes of many people in the surroundings to shine. Such a large cyan rhombus diamond was an extremely rare treasure. They didn't expect that 2 of them would appear in front of them. Unfortunately, these things were currently in the hands of Long Yu, and Long Yu is Shu Chan's subordinate, who will be tired of living and want to snatch something from Long Yu. Even without Shu Chan, Long Yu still had the Azura Prefecture's first-class medal. If they attacked Long Yu in Azura Valley, wouldn't it be telling the Azura Prefecture king that they looked down on him and wanted to go against him? No one would do something that would court death. Even if it was Tian Xinghe, his heart was filled with hatred towards Long Yu. However, he could not show it on the surface. He felt stifled and flustered. All right, Long Yu. There are many good things here, but you're right. This green-edged diamond is indeed nothing much. Shu Chan smiled casually and waved her hand, indicating for Long Yu to keep it. These words were clearly a slap to Tian Xinghe's face. In fact, if it weren't for the incident where Long Yu had been schemed against in the Azura Holy Tree Valley, Shu Chan would have been polite to Tian Xinghe. Even if she did not like him, she would not have slapped him in the face like this. As the Azura Prefecture Lord, her subordinate had actually been schemed against. Of course, Shu Chan could not tolerate such a thing. However, no matter how hard she tried, she was unable to find out who it was that made a move against Long Yu that day. Furthermore, the only person who had the authority to make her unable to find any information was most likely someone at the level of Tian Xinghe. Hence, Shu Chan was certain that Tian Xinghe was the one behind it. Since Tian Xinghe had made a move against Long Yu, why couldn't she, Shu Chan, slap Tian Xinghe in the face? Shu Chan's words made Tian Xinghe even more displeased. As the first disciple of the Azura Prefecture Lord, he had always appeared in front of Shu Chan as her senior brother. Furthermore, Shu Chan had always been polite to him. However, because of a mere Long Yu, Shu Chan had actually slapped him in the face. Tian Xinghe glared at Long Yu viciously, but did not say anything. He only forced a smile and said, "You are right, County Lord. Tian Xinghe, I will definitely prepare an even better gift to congratulate County Lord next time." After saying this, Tian Xinghe turned around and left. It's just a green-edged diamond. It's not a good thing to begin with. Long Yu pursed his lips and took out 7 or 8 fist-sized green-edged diamonds. He threw one to each of the people around him and said, "I can have as many of these as I want." Previously, when he was in the Nightmare Mountain range, he had used the Netherworld Dragon Blade to dig up over 20 fist-sized green-edged diamonds. Giving out a few now was nothing. The reason why he took them out now was to give Tian Xinghe another blow. Weren't you trying to curry favor with Shu Chan? Who told you to give out such a broken thing again? Long Yu knew that after what he did, Tian Xinghe would probably have to rack his brains to think of a gift the next time. He wasn't doing this purely out of spite. He had also guessed that Tian Xinghe's involvement in the Azura Sacred Trees Valley had something to do with him. Since that was the case, he naturally had to make Tian Xinghe suffer. Long Yu's actions caused 7 to 8 shiny fist-sized cyan rhombus diamonds to be taken out, causing Shu Chan and the others to be shocked on the spot. They subconsciously took the cyan rhombus diamonds. Xing Wu, Jia Banxian, Xiao Zhu, and the rest of Shu Chan's people all received a green-edged diamond and were stunned. A fist-sized green-edged diamond? It wasn't that no one had seen such a treasure before. However, it was their first time seeing someone take out 7 or 8 green-edged diamonds at once. Even the surrounding onlookers sucked in a breath of cold air. 7 or 8 fist-sized green-edged diamonds was too shocking. Seeing the crowd's reaction, the group of people from Tian Xinghe who had already left could not help but look back. With one look, Tian Xinghe had the urge to vomit blood. How did a fist-sized green-edged diamond become so easy to obtain? Even a heavenly beginning stage kid could casually toss out 8 or 10 green-edged diamonds. How could he let others live? At the start, when Long Yu mocked Tian Xinghe for not giving anything good, everyone thought that Long Yu was purposely making things difficult for Tian Xinghe. However, from the looks of it, Long Yu was not purposely making things difficult for Tian Xinghe. He was just telling the truth. Even a heavenly beginning stage martial cultivator like him could casually take out 8 or 10 green-edged diamonds. Yet, Tian Xinghe had only given 1 green-edged diamond to the county lord as a congratulatory gift. This showed how stingy Tian Xinghe was. Tian Xinghe's face turned gloomy when he felt the surrounding people pointing at him. However, he did not say anything. Instead, He turned around and left with his people. Given the current situation, no matter what he said, it would be useless. He might as well leave. Seeing Tian Xinghe leave hatefully, Long Yu smiled faintly. I don't remember offending you in any way. Tian Xinghe, since you took the initiative to find trouble with me, I, Long Yu, am not someone who is afraid of trouble. A cold light flashed in Long Yu's eyes. From the beginning to the end, Long Yu did not know how he had offended Tian Xinghe. Tian Xinghe had actually schemed against the valley where the Shura sacred tree was located and destroyed all traces. Compared to such a huge enmity, what Long Yu had done today was just a little interest that he had gotten back. Once he had the strength to defeat Tian Xinghe, he would definitely not let Tian Xinghe off. Amazing little seventh. After Tian Xinghe left, Jia Banxian was the first to react. He played with the fist-sized green edge diamond in his hand. His eyes glowed with a golden light. So many fist-sized green edge diamonds. Where did you get them from? Not simple, not simple. It seems that we have not seen through you. In the past month, Long Yu had sparred with everyone many times. He had become more familiar with everyone. Hearing Jia Banxian say this, Long Yu smiled casually. We have not seen through you either, third brother divine fraud. I am frank and open. How can I hide as deeply as you? Jia Banxian shook his head as he sized up Long Yu with great interest. Amazing, amazing. Tian Xinghe can only suffer losses in front of Little Seventh. It seems that once Little Seventh's martial Dao realm increases, you will definitely be stronger than us. Everyone do your best. The Azura selection is the first hurdle. Big brother Xingwu looked at Long Yu and laughed heartily. If you can enter the top 100 in the Azura selection, you will become one of the key disciples of Azura County. Your future will be limitless. Little Seven's goal is not just to enter the top 100 in the Azura selection. Fourth sister Xiao Zhu, who was standing to the side, revealed a smile even though she usually didn't smile. He made a bet with Bai Qing, so he will definitely surpass her. Bai Qing is the fourth disciple of the County King. It will not be difficult for her to enter the top 100. In the Dream Realm, if Bai Qing met Little Seventh earlier, she would not be his opponent. It would not be easy for her to enter the top 100. Banxian Jia smiled and said, not to mention, even if Bai Qing encounters us, we can injure her as much as possible. We can even kill her. I heard that Bai Qing doesn't put much effort into her cultivation and spends all her time forming cliques. It won't be difficult to deal with her. It is better to be careful. Long Yu cautiously said, who knows if she's hiding some trump card. Moreover, her usual performance is mostly just on the surface. In this world, I'm afraid there's not a single person who doesn't care about martial arts. Little Seventh is right. All right, let's not waste time here. Let's go. Chapter 498. The Azura selection was about to begin. All the martial cultivators in Azura Valley were very active. There was a sea of people in the center of the valley, waiting for the arrival of the attribute stones. In the entire Azura County, the Azura Duke had collected more than 1,000 attribute stones. These attribute stones would be placed everywhere in the Azura County when the Azura selection officially began. Even the floating islands would have one attribute stone each. Through the attribute stones, martial cultivators could test their own attributes. Then, they could enter the illusory space of the attribute stone and challenge their own mirror image. The first round of the attribute test did not have a high elimination rate. Most importantly, the following round would be challenging the mirror image. Not many martial cultivators would be able to pass this round. Long Yu and the rest arrived at the plaza in the center of Azura Valley. Soon, 10 attribute stones would be placed there to test the divine rune attributes of the various martial cultivators. Long Yu was rather curious about this. He knew that he had no problem comprehending the shadow attribute and life attribute divine runes. However, he did not know that he was more compatible with those attributes. Even Shu Chan would participate in the attribute stone test. Although people like Shu Chan were very clear about their own attributes, the level of compatibility with the attribute would change. From level 1 compatibility to level 9, it was a completely different concept. The higher the compatibility with the attribute of the divine rune, the stronger the power of the divine rune would be. The speed at which one comprehended the power of the divine rune would also increase. However, it was already very impressive for the martial cultivators of Azura County to have level 3 compatibility. It had to be known that even the Azura Prefecture King himself only had level 5 compatibility with the shadow attribute. Everyone found a place to rest and watched as more and more people gathered at the plaza. Perhaps because he did not want to see Long Yu again, Tian Xinghe led the rest to stand far away from Shu Chan and the rest. In any case, 10 attribute stones would appear in the plaza of Azura Valley. They did not have to be tested at the same attribute stone as Shu Chan and the rest. After being mocked by Long Yu, Tian Xinghe had lost all his face. This person was probably looking for a good opportunity to get back at him. When the sun was high up in the sky, thousands of resplendent rays of light shot out from the regional king's residence in the center of Azura Valley and flew in all directions. Among them, 10 resplendent lights landed on the Azura Valley's plaza, causing the waiting crowd to burst into cheers. Little 7, you go first. One of the glowing attribute stones landed not far from Shu Chan and the others. Due to the presence of Shu Chan, the martial cultivators around the attribute stone did not rush forward at once. Instead, they waited for Shu Chan and the others, allowing them to have priority. Half-immortal Jia smiled as he spoke to Long Yu. Then, he pulled Long Yu forward and flew in front of the attribute stone that was floating in the air. As long as I touch this attribute stone with my hand, I will be able to test out the attribute of the divine text that is compatible with me. As Banxian Jia spoke, he demonstrated it to Long Yu. He stretched out his hand and touched the resplendent light emitted by the attribute stone. Instantly, a white light was emitted from the attribute stone. From the color of the light, it could be seen that the divine text that half-immortal Jia was compatible with was of the light attribute. From the brightness of the white light, it could be seen that half-immortal Jia had reached the 3rd level of compatibility with the light attribute divine text. As soon as the light appeared, the surrounding martial cultivators exclaimed in surprise. They did not expect that even a subordinate of the county lord would be able to reach the 3rd level of compatibility with the light attribute divine text. After half-immortal Jia finished his test, his handsome face wandered around the surroundings, enjoying the cheers and praises from the crowd. Then, he turned his head and nodded at Long Yu with a smile, indicating that he should give it a try. Long Yu reached out his hand and quickly touched the resplendent light emitted by the attribute stone. Instantly, the light was split into 2 colors. One of the extremely deep compatible light entwined around Long Yu's left hand, while the other seemed to have a strong life force entwined around his right hand. Its dual attribute compatibility, the shadow divine text and the life divine text. Little 7 is indeed impressive. Although his dual attributes are only at the 1st level of compatibility, when he enters the mystery realm, he will naturally be able to increase the compatibility level. Since ancient times, those who have dual attribute compatibility have been able to leave a deep mark in history. I hope that little 7 will not disappoint us. Everyone on Shu Chan's side was full of praise, and a knowing smile appeared on their faces. The stronger Long Yu's strength and talent were, the more they were happy to see him. After all, they were all on the same side and were on the same side. Most of the sky being realm martial cultivators could only reach the 1st level of compatibility with the divine text. If they wanted to increase it, they would have to enter the mystery realm. The surrounding martial cultivators were even more excited about Long Yu's performance in the attribute stone. They were even more surprised than when they saw half-immortal Jia's 3rd level of compatibility. Dual attribute compatibility was rarely seen in the entire Shura province. This meant that this martial cultivator could quickly comprehend 2 types of divine text, greatly increasing his agility in battle. He had many methods and could deal with all kinds of situations. It was very rare. Shu-chan followed closely behind and went up to test her attributes. The fourth level of compatibility with the Shadow Divine text made Shu-chan very satisfied. Before she broke through to the form Mystery Realm, her compatibility with the Shadow Divine text was only at the third level. But after she broke through, her compatibility with the Shadow Divine text had increased by 1 level. This also meant that her strength had increased by more than 1 level. The most direct effect was that the power of her innate divine text had doubled. From this, one could see how important it was. Following that, everyone went up to test their attributes. However, including Xing Wu, most of them only had the second or third level of compatibility. It was too difficult to reach the fourth level like Shu-chan. It was not something ordinary people could do. Soon, Shu-chan and the others finished testing their attributes and retreated to the side to rest. Look, Bai Qing is going up. Ban Xianjia was sitting to the side, playing with the green diamond Long Yu had given him. Suddenly, his eyes lit up and he pointed at the stage. This shout made Long Yu pay attention. After all, Bai Qing had a bet with him. In Ashura selection, he had to rank higher than her. Now that Bai Qing was taking the attribute stone test, he naturally had to observe her carefully. He wanted to see what kind of talent she had. Soon, Bai Qing flew in front of the attribute stone and stretched out her hand. As the attribute stone emitted light, everyone's expression changed. The dazzling blue light indicated that Bai Qing had reached the fourth level of compatibility with the Ice Divine text. It seems that Bai Qing has not been slacking on the martial Dao. That appearance was just for the outsiders to see. Xing Wu's face darkened. Attunement with the ice element is at the fourth level, and with her 5 paths of divinity realm cultivation, even I am not her match. Among Shu-chan's group, Xing Wu was undoubtedly the strongest, but even he wasn't confident that he could defeat Bai Qing. This showed how terrifying Bai Qing's strength was. Actually, the reason why my father accepted them as his disciples was naturally because he valued their talent and temperament. Shu-chan narrowed her eyes. If she didn't have this kind of strength, she wouldn't be worthy of becoming my father's disciple. That's true. Everyone nodded in agreement. Beside Long Yu was the cold-faced second brother, Duguijian, who wore a black gown the entire time. He rarely spoke, but at this moment, he was staring at Bai Qing. He softly said, "If you meet her in the selection, don't let her go." Everyone attached great importance to the bet between Long Yu and Bai Qing. After all, if Long Yu lost, Long Yu would owe Sahantan a favor. Of the Azura Duke's 4 disciples, eldest brother Tian Xinghe and 4th senior sister Bai Qing were not on good terms with Shu-chan. However, 3rd senior brother Sahantan was extremely strong-willed and treated Shu-chan like his own little sister. He was on good terms with everyone. Long Yu still remembered that when he made the bet with Bai Qing, it was Sahantan who stepped forward and took the initiative to bear the consequences of Long Yu's loss. As long as Long Yu lost, Sahantan would owe Bai Qing a favor. Just for this, Long Yu absolutely could not lose to Bai Qing in the Azura selection. So what if you have a 4th level divine text affinity? If you had the same cultivation as me, I might be able to fight you. Long Yu thought as he stared at the dazzling Bai Qing. After Bai Qing finished her test, she looked in the direction of Long Yu and cast a look of disdain at Long Yu. She was not even 30 years old and had a 5th level divine text affinity. She had the qualifications to look down on a mere heaven initial realm brat. Long Yu turned a blind eye to this. There was no point in arguing with Bai Qing now. He only needed to prepare himself and work hard in the Azura selection to surpass Bai Qing in the dreamscape. Although there were many martial cultivators in Azura Valley, the attribute test was not complicated. One only needed to touch the light of an attribute stone. There were a total of 10 attribute stones in the valley, so the speed was very fast. By noon, almost everyone had finished their tests. Next, it was time to challenge one's mirror image. This was the most important round. Even in Azura County, a large number of people would be eliminated in this round and lose the right to participate in the Azura selection. It went without saying how difficult it was to fight one's mirror image. Long Yu's heart skipped a beat. He had heard that the mirror doppelganger would possess the same strength, martial skills, and battle weapon as him. If he were to bring the ancient dragon skeleton pagoda with him, wouldn't it be difficult to deal with his mirror doppelganger? No, dealing with my mirror image is different from how others deal with me. Long Yu narrowed his eyes. If others fight me, they can't do anything to me if I hide in the ancient dragon bone tower. But if my mirror image hides in the ancient dragon bone tower, I can enter the tower as well. Long Yu secretly tried to figure out the possible fighting methods that the mirror image doppelganger could use. After a rough calculation, he relaxed. Chapter 499. Challenging the mirror image avatars was done in batches. The first batch of challengers were mostly martial cultivators who were extremely confident in themselves. For example, Shu Chan, Bai Qing, Tian Xinghe, and the others. These people weren't thinking about how to defeat their own mirror image, but how to defeat it as quickly as possible and come out of the independent space of the attribute stone. Xiaoqi, let's go. Do your best. On Shu Chan's side, 8 people, including Shu Chan, stood up and prepared to be the first batch to enter. In addition to them, Bai Qing, Tian Xinghe, and the others also prepared with their subordinates. Behind Bai Qing, Zhuo Zeshan, who had fought with Long Yu, had already recovered from his injuries. The young man, Zhuo Zeshan, looked at Long Yu from afar with incomparable resentment in his eyes. Because he had lost to Long Yu, his position in Bai Qing's eyes had plummeted and he hadn't received any cultivation resources for the past 2 months. This caused Zhuo Zeshan's cultivation to remain in the human tribulation realm, while Long Yu had already stepped into the heavenly origin realm. The gap between them had widened. Do you want to prove yourself? Then defeat your mirror image as quickly as possible. As long as you're faster than Long Yu, I, Bai Qing, promise to reward you with 3 heaven-grade medicinal pills to help you break through. Bai Qing said indifferently to Zhuo Zeshan. Zhuo Zeshan will definitely do his best. Zhuo Zeshan said, gritting his teeth. Bai Qing raised her head and glanced at Shu Chan and the others not far away. She revealed a charming smile and said, Princess, the second round of the Azure selection is about to begin. Since the Dream Realm hasn't been opened yet, why don't we add more stakes? What do you mean? Shu Chan raised her eyebrows and looked at Bai Qing. This time, we'll challenge the mirror image based on speed. I, Bai Qing, will specially challenge Long Yu. I wonder if the princess has any objections? Bai Qing looked at Long Yu and smiled with interest. She challenged Long Yu by name and wanted to see who could defeat her mirror image first. She obviously didn't have any good intentions. If Long Yu refused, then it would create a barrier in Long Yu's heart, and it might have a negative impact on Long Yu's path of martial arts. But if Long Yu agreed, then Bai Qing was confident that she could defeat Long Yu. Bai Qing had tried challenging a mirror image avatar before. This was one of her advantages as the Azure Duke's disciple. Naturally, it would be much easier to challenge something that had already been challenged. When Bai Qing looked at Long Yu and issued the challenge, Shu Chan and the others frowned. This challenge was not fair. I promise. Long Yu's voice echoed out. I wonder what Senior Bai Qing wants to bet. I remember that Senior Bai Qing once lost a worldly golden pill to me. I wonder what you're going to give me this time. As soon as these words came out, the surroundings immediately fell silent. This kid, Long Yu, was making people speechless. He actually addressed Bai Qing as Senior. It was clear that Bai Qing was bullying the weak, and this was undoubtedly the truth. Moreover, Long Yu also brought up the matter of him winning the Renhuan Golden Pill. This was completely looking down on Bai Qing. This caused Bai Qing's charming face to disappear, replaced by a gloomy expression. The worldly golden pill was lost because my subordinates were too stupid. This time, you won't have any chance. Since you're so confident, then I, Bai Qing, will use this weapon as the wager. After saying that, a pair of short swords appeared in Bai Qing's hands. From the aura they emitted, it was actually a pair of great desolate level weapons. 9 revolution spiritual swords. Shu Chan's expression changed. Fourth Senior Sister, this is the only great desolate level weapon my father gave you. Is it appropriate for you to use it as the wager? In fact, it wasn't that Shu-chan didn't want the pair of great desolate level dual swords. It would be great if she could win it from Bai Qing. A great desolate level weapon was a treasure that even Shu-chan would be jealous of. The problem was Bai Qing had already taken out a great desolate level 9 revolution spiritual sword weapon. Naturally, Long Yu couldn't take out something inferior to the 9 revolution spiritual sword weapon. As for Long Yu, it was the great desolate level ancient dragon skeleton tower that everyone was most familiar with. Long Yu narrowed his eyes. Princess, it would be a waste if I don't accept a great desolate level weapon that has been delivered to me. It just so happens that a friend of mine needs a pair of short swords. It would be a great gift if I could get my hands on this pair of 9 revolution spiritual swords. The crowd was stunned by his words. Fine, fine. Then you can use your ancient dragon skeleton tower as the wager. How about it? Do you dare? Hearing Long Yu's arrogant words, Bai Qing couldn't help but laugh out of anger. Challenge the mirror clone. If you come out later than me, it'll be your loss, and you'll have to hand over the ancient dragon skeleton tower to me. If you don't keep your promise, you'll bring shame to the princess. I'm only worried that you won't keep your promise. As for me, you don't have to worry about it. Long Yu chuckled. I have more than one great desolate level weapon on me. I won't go back on my word, even if I lose. As for you, if you lose to me, I'm afraid you won't hand over the 9 revolution spiritual sword obediently. Don't worry about that. I, Bai Qing, am a man of my word. Bai Qing's expression was cold. After saying this, she turned around and said, Everyone can be witnesses. Now, I will enter the attribute stone space with this kid called Long Yu to challenge the mirror clone. Whoever comes out later or doesn't come out in time will have to hand over their great desolate level weapon. Using a great desolate level weapon as the wager, such a matter immediately spread throughout the entire Azura Valley, attracting even more people to gather around to watch. Tian Xinghe originally didn't want to meet with Shu-chan, Long Yu, and the others. However, with such a big event happening, he had no choice but to come over to watch. After all, it was rare to see a wager on a great desolate level weapon. Moreover, this matter was related to Long Yu. Naturally, Tian Xinghe wouldn't let go of such a great opportunity to watch Long Yu embarrass himself. Junior sister Bai Qing took out a great desolate level 9 revolution spiritual sword as the wager. It seems like she's very confident. Long Yu, you have to be careful. Tian Xinghe led his subordinates over and pretended to be friendly as he reminded Long Yu. Senior brother, you don't have to worry. This battle, Long Yu will definitely win. Shu-chan glanced at Tian Xinghe and said coldly. She originally thought that Long Yu wouldn't dare to take out the ancient dragon skeleton tower as the wager. She didn't expect Long Yu to be so confident. Since that was the case, she couldn't stop Long Yu. Otherwise, she was afraid that it would cast a shadow in Long Yu's heart and affect his martial arts realm. Now that Tian Xinghe had come over to make sarcastic remarks, Shu-chan naturally couldn't stand it. Since that's the case, I wish little brother Long Yu success. Tian Xinghe smiled faintly. Even the subordinates behind him laughed out loud. Long Yu's futile attempt to compete with Bai Qing in terms of the speed of the mirror image doppelganger was too ridiculous. In their opinion, there was no way they could be compared. One was a genius disciple of the Azura Prefecture King, while the other was a kid from the floating island of Heavenly Mandate Island. The gap between the two was obvious. Hearing the mockery from Tian Xinghe and his subordinates, Long Yu's expression remained unchanged. He said calmly, Since you guys don't think I'll win, how about this? I still have a great desolate level weapon with me. Senior brother Tian Xinghe, do you dare to bet with me? Tian Xinghe's expression instantly changed upon hearing this. He didn't expect that, just by mocking Long Yu, the kid would bring the flames of war onto him. Betting with a great desolate level weapon? Tian Xinghe really wanted the pitch-black dagger in Long Yu's hand. However, he didn't have any leeway in this bet. Whether he won or lost depended entirely on Bai Qing and Long Yu. Little brother Long must be joking. I, Tian Xinghe, wish you success. How could I not be optimistic about you? Tian Xinghe smiled faintly. After hearing Long Yu's words, the subordinates behind Tian Xinghe didn't dare to mock him anymore. They were afraid that Long Yu would point his spear at them. That wouldn't be fun. Seeing that Tian Xinghe had admitted defeat, Long Yu didn't take advantage of the situation. He knew that it wouldn't be easy to pull Tian Xinghe into this bet. It would be enough to humiliate Tian Xinghe. Princess, big senior brother, fourth junior sister. At this moment, a hearty laughter came from the side. Everyone looked over and saw a tough man in gray flying over alone. It was the third disciple of the Azura Prefecture King, Sahanzhan. Sahanzhan was on good terms with the young princess, Shuchan. Of course, he was here to support Long Yu. Haha, little Long, you've created many miracles. This time won't be an exception. Do your best. Sahanzhan flew over and cheered Long Yu on with a smile. From Suhanshan's eyes, Long Yu could see that this person was sincerely cheering for him, and not like Tian Xinghe, who was mocking him with sarcasm. Thank you, third senior brother. Shuchan thanked Sahanzhan with a smile. Hey, we're all on the same side. Why are you treating me like an outsider? Sahanzhan waved his hand casually and looked around. Is second senior sister not back yet? She just came back. My father stopped her and told her something. She should be back soon. Shuchan said. Yes. Sahanzhan nodded and heaved a sigh of relief. I was afraid that something might have happened to her. Second senior sister is extremely talented. How could anything happen to her? Don't worry, third senior brother. Shuchan said with a smile. That's true. Sahanzhan nodded. Long Yu didn't know who the second senior sister they were talking about was, but he definitely didn't expect that he was related to the second senior sister. At this moment, Long Yu was thinking about how to deal with his mirror image doppelganger at the fastest speed. After everyone finished their greetings, Bai Qing said, It's about time to start, right? This time, only I, Bai Qing, and Long Yu will enter. Everyone should watch carefully and see who could defeat the mirror image doppelganger and come out of the attribute stone space. After saying this, Bai Qing smiled disdainfully at Long Yu. She originally just wanted to give a blow to Long Yu and leave a shadow in Long Yu's heart. She didn't expect that Long Yu would really agree to this bet. Chapter 500. Before entering, Long Yu took out the dragon scale of Hades and handed it to Shuchan. Princess, this is my stake. I'll leave it with you for now. If I win, you can give it back to me. Then, Long Yu looked at Bai Qing. Bai Qing, shouldn't you show your sincerity too? Just now, Long Yu thought for a while and came to the conclusion that if he wanted to defeat the mirror clone quickly, he could not bring the ancient Dragon Bone Tower with him. Although he should be able to enter the ancient Dragon Bone Tower, it would take a lot of time. Leaving the ancient Dragon Bone Tower outside would save the most time. But for Bai Qing, it was different. Bai Qing's stake was an offensive weapon, the 9-rotation spiritual sword. If she wanted to defeat the mirror clone quickly, it would be impossible without the 9-rotation spiritual sword. This made Bai Qing realize how cunning Long Yu was. He actually used such a method to make her lose her strongest attack. However, you're dreaming. Bai Qing sneered and said, So many people are here as witnesses. Are you worried that I'll go back on my word? You don't have to hand over the weapon to the princess. It's not too late to hand it over after you lose. Hearing this, Long Yu felt it was a pity that Bai Qing did not fall for his trick. Or rather, Bai Qing was very clear about her own strength. She knew that without the 9-rotation spiritual sword, her battle strength would be greatly reduced, and her chances of winning would be even lower. Originally, Bai Qing was a little uncertain about Long Yu. Of course, she would not give up the 9-rotation spiritual sword. Without the 9-rotation spiritual sword, Bai Qing felt that she was not confident that she could defeat the mirror clone before Long Yu. Therefore, she naturally would not fall for Long Yu's trick. Long Yu didn't say anything, he only faintly smiled. It was fine if Bai Qing wasn't willing to fall for his trap, but even so, he didn't feel that he would lose to Bai Qing because he had full confidence in himself. Under the watchful eyes of many martial cultivators, the two of them flew towards the attribute stones in the center. Then, They released their Xian Qi and activated the teleportation function of the attribute stones. The two of them disappeared in a flash in front of everyone. Each attribute stone could allow tens of thousands of people to enter different independent spaces and challenge their own mirror image avatars. But now, for the sake of the bet between Bai Qing and Long Yu, the others were extremely conscientious and didn't step into the independent space of the attribute stone. Instead, they all waited outside and discussed spiritedly. They were discussing who would win in the end. The bet between the two of them attracted tens of thousands of onlookers. The scene was quite spectacular. Bai Qing stepped into the independent space of the attribute stone and saw a girl in a pink dress in front of her. The girl's appearance and figure were exactly the same as her. It was her mirror image avatar. Bai Qing's mirror doppelganger had the same abilities as Bai Qing and could use the same level of martial skills, as well as the same battle weapon. Normally, if one wanted to defeat an opponent with the same conditions, the chance of winning was not very high. But for Bai Qing, it was not the case because she was very clear that the mirror doppelganger created by the silver mirror had a certain flaw. The flaw of the mirror doppelganger was that it couldn't copy the fighting will and talent of a martial cultivator. The silver mirror battle weapon could copy the martial Dao realm, martial skills, and even battle weapons of many martial cultivators, but it still couldn't copy the will of a martial cultivator. This was its biggest flaw. Although the mirror doppelganger of a martial cultivator had the same abilities as a martial cultivator, it didn't have the same thinking ability as a martial cultivator. Its battle was completely based on instinct. It only relied on instinct but didn't think. In this way, these mirror doppelganger were not invincible. Especially for Bai Qing, it was not the first time she faced a mirror doppelganger. Although the last time she faced a mirror doppelganger was when she was still in the three divine power realm, she was very familiar with the characteristics of the mirror doppelganger. Even if the strength of the mirror doppelganger had increased by 2 levels, it would not be a problem to deal with it. The most important trick to deal with the mirror doppelganger is to attack first. Bai Qing's expression was cold. She looked at her mirror doppelganger, and immediately a cold qi burst out from her body. The innate divine power, Ice Mountain, instantly burst out. A mountain condensed from ice fell from the sky, carrying a burst of incomparably terrifying cold air, and swept towards her mirror image avatar. With her level 4 compatibility with the ice attribute divine runes, this move of hers was enough to destroy many experts in the same martial Dao realm as her. Of course, the opponent was her mirror doppelganger, so she couldn't directly defeat it. Bai Qing's mirror doppelganger was expressionless. Her body also burst out with the power of the ice attribute divine runes, and at the same time, another innate divine power was released. An ice river suddenly descended and directly blocked in front of the ice mountain. The two kinds of cold qi collided with each other, and suddenly a crack appeared between them, and then it turned into ice fragments. However, Bai Qing's attack was not over yet. As an expert in the 5 Daos divine power realm, she had already comprehended 5 kinds of innate divine power. Her fighting style was extremely flexible and varied. Since her attack failed, she immediately used other means and launched a series of attacks on the mirror doppelganger. The power of ice continued to erupt in this independent space, and almost the sky and earth of this independent space were all frozen. After stepping into the 5 Daos divine power realm, my strength is really much stronger than before. There are almost no flaws. It is really perfect. Bai Qing's brows slightly wrinkled. The battle lasted for a long time. She discovered that as her martial Dao realm increased, her comprehensive strength also became stronger. Even if she wanted to break through the defense of her own mirror image avatar, it became quite difficult. One must know that she was always the person who knew her own flaws the best. Even she couldn't deal with the mirror doppelganger, which showed how tyrannical the strength of the mirror doppelganger was. The stronger the mirror doppelganger was, the fewer flaws the martial cultivator had, and the harder it was to deal with. However, Bai Qing still hadn't reached the level of perfection. After about the time it took for an incense stick to burn, she finally froze her mirror doppelganger completely. This was because she had found a flaw when she was comprehending the martial technique, and thus successfully defeated the mirror doppelganger. Defeating the mirror doppelganger through the flaw of one's own martial technique was the easiest way to pass this round. However, it was easier said than done to discover the flaw of one's own martial technique. Bai Qing had fought with her mirror doppelganger for so long before she finally found a flaw in the martial technique she had comprehended in the past. From then on, she froze the mirror doppelganger and secured her victory. A little more than the time it takes for an incense stick to burn has passed, and I've almost broken the record for martial cultivators in Azura County to defeat their own mirror doppelganger. No matter what, that kid can only lose to me. The ancient dragon skeleton tower belongs to me, Bai Qing. A complacent smile appeared on Bai Qing's face. She watched her mirror doppelganger turn into ashes under her ice attack. Her figure flickered, and in the next moment, she returned to the attribute stone. She looked around proudly, wanting to win the cheers of the surrounding martial cultivators. However, Bai Qing discovered that what welcomed her was not a wave of cheers, but a wave of astonishment. What's going on? Bai Qing's expression changed. She had a bad premonition. However, at this moment, she finally saw a person smiling at her not far away. That person was actually Long Yu, who Bai Qing thought was still fighting with her mirror doppelganger. Bai Qing, everyone can testify that I came out a few minutes earlier than you. According to the rules of the bet, I, Long Yu, have won. Long Yu looked at Bai Qing and said indifferently. Hearing this, Bai Qing almost didn't dare to believe it. She looked around and heard Tan Xinghe say, "Indeed, Long Yu came out early. Everyone could see that." Junior sister Bai Qing, you've lost this bet. Tian Xinghe's words made Bai Qing's face turn ashen. She lost. How was this possible? She had only used a little more than an incense stick's time to defeat her mirror doppelganger. This was practically the best result in the Shura Prefecture's Shura selection. She was definitely in the top 3. But even so, Long Yu had defeated her mirror doppelganger faster than her? How was this possible? Bai Qing's expression instantly turned extremely gloomy. This bet concerned the ownership of the Desolate Level Warrior. Long Yu had used the ancient dragon tower as the wager, and she had used the 9 revolving spiritual sword. The 9 revolving spiritual sword was the only Desolate Level Warrior that Bai Qing possessed. She had originally planned to rely on her 100% chance of winning the ancient dragon tower from Long Yu. However, she had not expected that not only would she fail to defeat Long Yu and obtain the ancient dragon tower, but she would also have to give away her 9 revolving spiritual sword. Haha, little 7 is really too strong. She defeated her mirror doppelganger in less than an incense stick's time. Not easy, not easy. It's more than just not easy. This speed has already surpassed the previous record of the Shura selection in the entire Shura Prefecture. I wonder how he managed to achieve such a result. Defeating her mirror doppelganger in less than an incense stick's time is a miracle. Fighting with a mirror doppelganger was considered the most difficult thing to do, because the mirror doppelganger had the same strength as the user. Nowadays, martial cultivators, without exception, all cultivated both offense and defense. They had both offensive and defensive methods. Using one's own offensive method to deal with one's own defensive method, especially when both parties were very familiar with these methods, it was extremely difficult to determine the winner. It was definitely not something that could be achieved overnight. This is impossible. Bai Qing's expression was ferocious as she stared at Long Yu and roared hysterically. The truth is right in front of you. Are you going to deny it? Long Yu said indifferently and sneered. Chapter 501. Before Long Yu arrived, Shu Chan had already told Long Yu about some of the characteristics of the mirror avatars in the Attribute Stone. Many martial cultivators who participated in the second round of the Shura selection were very cautious when facing mirror avatars that looked exactly like them. They were unwilling to take the initiative to attack, but chose to wait for the mirror avatar to take the initiative to attack. In this way, because the martial cultivators knew all the martial skills of the mirror avatar like the back of their hand, they had enough time and means to think about how to deal with it, and their chances of winning would increase accordingly. However, in reality, such a passive battle was of no help to the martial cultivators in defeating the mirror avatar. This was because these mirror avatars had the same combat power as the martial cultivators. The only thing they lacked was combat awareness. However, as long as the mirror avatar was given a certain amount of time to familiarize itself with its fighting style, its combat power would skyrocket. The most fundamental combat instinct of the mirror avatar completely came from the creator of the mirror avatar, Jing. One could imagine how great the advantage would be as long as the mirror avatar was familiar with the fighting style of the martial cultivators. The flaws in martial skills, weapons, and so on would be easily restrained by the mirror avatar, and the flaws in its strength will be made up for to the greatest extent. In this way, the longer the battle, the more disadvantageous it would be for the martial cultivators participating in the Shura selection. Over time, they would definitely be suppressed by the mirror avatar. After all, in terms of combat awareness, no one could compare to Jing, an expert who had long stepped into the King Path secret realm. Therefore, the most important thing to deal with the mirror avatar was to end the battle quickly, so that the mirror avatar would not have time to familiarize itself with the various abilities it possessed. Long Yu followed the method Shu Chan said. After entering the mirror avatar space in the attribute stone, he did not stop at all and directly displayed his strongest attack, Ancient Desolate Shadow Kill. 3 afterimages burst out with shadow flow and attacked the mirror avatar at an extremely fast speed, almost giving the mirror avatar no time to react. In a hurry, the mirror clone could only execute the Dragon Sparrow Flash to avoid Long Yu's Desolate Grade martial technique. Then, he executed the Ancient Desolate Shadow Kill, wanting to confront Long Yu. But at this moment, Long Yu directly controlled the 2 phantoms and shot the Heavenly Mandate Divine Light at one of the phantoms. This acquired magic was performed with the divine character Yu, and a terrifying power burst out, blowing up one of the phantoms. Following that, it became much easier for them to fight 3 against 2. In less than half an incense stick time, Long Yu dealt with a mirror image doppelganger and walked out of the independent space of the attribute stone. As soon as he appeared, everyone around suddenly let out an exclamation. This Long Yu actually dealt with a mirror avatar so quickly, it was really shocking. One must know that before this, the fastest martial cultivator to defeat the mirror image doppelganger had taken an entire incense's time. However, Long Yu had only taken half an incense's time. How could this not cause others to exclaim in admiration? The most fundamental reason was that Long Yu understood all his martial arts techniques very well, and he was very clear about their flaws and shortcomings. Targeting these flaws and shortcomings, it was not difficult for Long Yu to defeat the mirror avatar. Even so, through this battle, Long Yu was more clear about the flaws and loopholes of the various methods he had mastered. In the future, in the process of cultivation, he could target and correct these flaws and loopholes. Long Yu was originally very clear about the martial arts techniques he had learned and the power he had comprehended. Even he could get inspiration from it. Those martial arts practitioners who could not pass this test would definitely get more from it. This was probably the biggest reason why the Shura Prefecture King and the Silver Mirror arranged the Shura General Selection that was held every 20 years. Even if those martial arts practitioners could not pass the selection, they would be able to get inspiration from it, allowing their strength to improve fundamentally and have a staged summary of the power they had grasped. This would undoubtedly strengthen the martial arts strength of the entire Shura County's younger generation. It was very meaningful, and they could also choose geniuses who truly understood themselves to participate in the next selection and focus on nurturing them. Many of the outstanding mainstays of Ashura County were geniuses who had stood out in the Shura General Selection. After Long Yu came out, less than an incense stick's time passed before Bai Qing came out from the independent space. In truth, If it was not for the fact that Long Yu had spent more than half the time compared to her, she would definitely have come out so quickly. However, with the shock that Long Yu had brought to everyone, Bai Qing's result was extremely ordinary. This is impossible. Bai Qing gritted her teeth and stared at Long Yu. Junior sister Bai Qing. Tianxing has said indifferently, a loss is a loss. You're not someone who cannot afford to lose. Isn't it just a pair of 9 revolution spiritual swords? Just give it to Long Yu. Even if you give it to him, he will not be able to display the power of the 9 revolution spiritual swords. It will be a waste. Tianxing's words caused Bai Qing to wake up. Indeed, a loss was a loss. As the Shura Prefecture King's disciple, Bai Qing often listened to her master's teachings. The most fatal thing on the path of martial arts was not being able to recognize oneself and being blindly arrogant. Since ancient times, how many talented martial cultivators had appeared. However, among these geniuses, there were not many who could truly become kings. Instead, it was those who did not have much talent but had great perseverance and knew how to endure. Only then could they climb to the peak of martial arts. On the path of martial arts, the most important thing was not talent, but mentality. No matter how heaven-defying one's martial arts talent was, if one's mentality was not good, it was normal for one to die halfway on the path of martial arts. Thinking of this, Bai Qing immediately suppressed the unwillingness in her heart. She took a deep look at Long Yu before casually handing over the pair of 9 revolving spiritual swords. I'll let you keep these great desolate-level warrior weapons for the time being. I'll personally retrieve them after our next duel. After saying this, Bai Qing turned around and left. Defeating the mirror image doppelganger meant that she was qualified to participate in the 3rd round of the Shura selection. The 3rd round of the Shura selection, the battle in the Dream Realm, would only officially begin in 7 days. During this time, Bai Qing needed to go back and think about her flaws in the battle. She needed to work hard to improve her strength. Long Yu extended his hand and caught the pair of 9 revolution spiritual swords. Then he slightly narrowed his eyes. If Bai Qing were to attack him out of anger, or choose to renege on the debt and not give him the 9 revolution spiritual swords, Long Yu would not be afraid of this woman, because such a woman was not worthy of his attention. No matter how strong Bai Qing's martial Dao realm was, Long Yu would be able to surpass her one day. But now, Bai Qing was able to suppress the anger in her heart and directly give him the 9 revolution spiritual swords. It could be seen that Bai Qing's mental strength was definitely up to standard. This kind of person was a real threat to Long Yu. Therefore, Long Yu was not complacent because he had won this time, because he knew that as long as Bai Qing was alive, he would not be able to eliminate the threat. In the future, there would be more and more danger. Now, if Bai Qing was given a chance, she would definitely not let go of any chance to kill Long Yu. Therefore, before killing Bai Qing, Long Yu could not slack off no matter what, because if he was not careful, he might die in Bai Qing's hands. She is a threat. Long Yu squinted his eyes and looked at Bai Qing's back as she left. He secretly became vigilant. Not far away, Tianxing looked at Long Yu a few times and pretended to congratulate him. Then he also took his leave. The curtain fell on the good show, and the crowd finally began to disperse. Some of them even threw themselves into the battle with their own mirror image avatars. For everyone else, the bet between Long Yu and Bai Qing was just a small interlude. The most important thing was whether they could pass the 2nd round of the Azure selection. Xing Wu, Jia Banxian, Dugi Jian, and the other subordinates of Shu Chan also followed Shu Chan into the independent space of the Attribute Stone and began to fight with their mirror image avatars. The battle with the mirror image avatars lasted for 3 days and 3 nights. Until 3 days later, when Long Yu was resting in his courtyard, digesting some of his recent comprehension of martial skills, little fatty Ren Pingfan finally ran over happily. Haha, little brother Long, I brought you good news and bad news. Which one do you want to hear first? Little fatty came in front of Long Yu and said in a wretched manner, "Let's talk about the good news first." Long Yu smiled slightly. He was in a good mood and did not want to be ruined by the bad news. The good news is that the list of all the martial cultivators who are qualified to participate in the third round of the Azure selection has been released. Among them, I got the list of the Heavenly Mandate Island where you are from. Little Fatty directly spread out a bamboo scroll and said with a smile, "On Heavenly Mandate Island, there are more than 100 people who can participate in the third round of the Azure selection. Many of them are your friends. The princess drew them for me. Take a look." Hearing this, Long Yu was quite interested. He got up and went forward. At a glance, he saw many familiar names, which made him happy. There were indeed many people on this list that he had never thought of. Among them, the first to catch his eye was, of course, one of the young masters of Yellow Sand Sky City, Yilun. Yilun originally had extraordinary martial arts talent, so it was not surprising that he could pass the first 2 rounds of the Azure selection. Apart from him, another young master of Yellow Sand Sky City, Qin Shue, also passed the second round of selection and became one of the candidates from Heavenly Mandate Island for the third round of the Azure selection. If it was said that the appearance of these 2 names on the list did not surprise Long Yu, then the following names on the list shocked him. Feng Haofeng, Feng Xiaofei, Feng Yusin, the 3 heroes of the Feng clan, all appeared on this list. In addition, there were many names that Long Yu was familiar with on the list, such as Feng Yao and Lu Yuan. They had both defeated their respective mirror image doppelgangers and passed the second round of the Azure selection. Yin Huan, Imo, Qihua, Man Xi, and Fu. The 4 of them are also on the list, and there are many familiar faces, such as Chu Xian and Chu Huang from the Tang Empire, and Ling Long Yu from the Mo clan from the Tang Empire. Xiangwu. This little girl actually passed the second round of the Azure selection. Chapter 502. Looking at Long Yu's surprised expression, the little fatty Ren Pingfan smiled and said, "Brother Long, are you surprised to see this list? In fact, the Commandery Princess once personally went to Heavenly Mandate Island and went to your hometown. She told your friends about the characteristics of the mirror clone." When Long Yu heard this, he came to a sudden realization. He was thinking that, logically speaking, it was impossible for Lu Yuan, Feng Yao, and Shi Yingwu to defeat their mirror doppelgangers and pass the second round of the Sure selection. But with Shu Chan's help, it was hard to say. As long as Shu Chan talked about the characteristics of mirror doppelgangers and gave them some Earth-level pills, it would be of great help to Feng Yao and the others. That is to say, I may meet them in the third round of the Sure selection in the dream world. Long Yu thought for a while and felt that this might not be a good thing for him. After all, if he met his old friends in the dreamscape, he definitely would not ignore them. Instead, he would definitely help them. In fact, Long Yu could not even protect himself in the dream world. If he met Bai Qing and the others, it was hard to say who would win. Fine, if I can meet him, I will naturally lend him a hand. Long Yu shook his head. As for what to do, he would definitely decide according to the situation. Anyway, the premise of everything was to ensure that he would not be defeated by Bai Qing. Now that Long Yu had left Heavenly Mandate Island, as long as his martial arts realm improved and he could step into the secret realm, he would one day be able to leave Heavenly Mandate Island with the 3 heroes of the Feng clan. Even if they missed this opportunity, for the 3 heroes of the Feng clan, it wasn't something they couldn't recover from. On the contrary, for Long Yu, if he lost to Bai Qing in the dream world in the third round of the Sure selection, it would be a big blow to him. Not to mention anything else. Just the fact that he owed senior brother Shu Chan, Sahan's Han, a favor was enough to make Long Yu's mind unstable. For martial arts cultivators, if they wanted to break through to a higher level, their mentality was the most important. Once the mentality was unstable, it would be extremely difficult to break through the martial arts realm. This was not a situation that Long Yu wanted to face. Only if I am strong enough can I protect my brothers, friends, and family. In this dream world, no matter how hard I fight, I will not lose my life. If the situation permits, I must put myself first. Long Yu thought, if it was a real battle, then no matter what, he would help his family, friends, and brothers. However, in the battle of the dream world, dying in it wouldn't result in real death. So, at times, Long Yu still needed to abandon his brothers and friends. Of course, the dream world was extremely vast, and there would be hundreds of thousands of people fighting in it. It would not be easy for him to meet his friends. Long Yu's friends from the Heavenly Mandate Island numbered no more than a dozen at most. The probability of encountering them was too small. In most cases, they would still need to work hard. Long Yu continued to look down the list of people he knew. In addition to the friends and family he knew, there were many people he knew but were not friendly with. They had also passed the second round of the Shura selection and were qualified to fight in the dream world. They were the young genius from the Sky Cloud Sword Kingdom, Ji Qianxi, the young genius from the Ice Source Temple, Shuelan, and the genius from the Shadow Demon Royal family of the Soul Valley Demon Kingdom, Mo Shang. These three were the geniuses who joined the Northern Academy of the Heavenly Mandate Realm with Yin Huanma, Man Xian, and Tian Yutian. It was not surprising that they could enter the third round of the Shura selection. In addition, there was another familiar person. It was the young genius from the Kanglan Sword Sect, Yin Xing. Yin Xing was Yin Huanma's brother. He killed his father when he was in his teens, left the Yin family, and joined the Northern Academy of the Heavenly Mandate Realm. Later, he was chosen by the Kanglan Sword Sect. Now, he had finally reached the stage of the Shura selection. If he could make the leap, he would be able to step into the vast martial arts world of the Shenwu world. From then on, he would be able to advance to a higher realm. Someone who killed his father is also qualified to pursue the pinnacle of martial arts. Long Yu saw Yin Xing's name and immediately snorted. If he met this kid in the dream world, he would definitely not show any mercy. With Long Yu's current strength, even in the real world, he would be absolutely invincible when he returned to the Heavenly Mandate Island. Not to mention, when fighting in the dream world, everyone was only in the martial arts realm of the human initial realm. Compared to the others, Long Yu had an even greater advantage. Guan Shanxiong, Zhan Teng, these two guys are from the Northern Academy of the Heavenly Mandate Realm. Aren't they the subordinates of Xuanji Shanhai? Long Yu saw two familiar names and recalled the time when he had first entered the ancient Dragonbone Tower. These two had chased him all the way to the 6th floor of the ancient Dragonbone Tower and eventually forced him to the 7th floor. Although it was a blessing in disguise, Long Yu felt that Guan Shanxiong and Zhan Teng were enemies that he absolutely had to eliminate. If I meet you in the dream world, I, Long Yu, will definitely let you two die first. Long Yu thought to himself, and a cold light flashed in his eyes. The little fatty Rin Pingfan looked at Long Yu and felt the murderous intent emanating from Long Yu. He could not help but chuckle and said, "Little brother Long, do you really want to kill people in the dream world?" "Oh." Long Yu raised his eyebrows and looked at Rin Pingfan with some confusion. In the third round of the Azura selection, in the dream world, it is not 100% impossible to kill your opponent. Rin Pingfan said with assurance, "If you want to kill someone in the dream world, it is very simple. As long as you can perform a mental attack and completely wipe out the opponent's will, then they will lose their consciousness and will be as good as dead. There is such a way." Long Yu frowned slightly. It seemed that Long Yu had not yet learned the mental attack. Even if he started to learn it now, it would not be so easy to use it against others. For Long Yu, the meaning of this news was purely to make him a little more vigilant. If the enemy performed a mental attack, how should he deal with it? The Netherworld Barrier, Reincarnation Barrier, and Divine Light Barrier should be able to defend against it. However, if Fingyu Xian and the others encounter such a situation, there is no good way to defend against it. Long Yu thought to himself with a sullen face. However, Rin Pingfan seemed to have seen through Long Yu's worries and said directly, "However, little brother Long, you can rest assured. The types of mental attack are very rare. Even experts at the level of Bai Qing and Tian Xinghe have not comprehended it. Your family and friends should not be killed so easily in the dream world." "That's good." When Long Yu heard this, he was a little relieved, but he was not completely at ease. This was because he now knew that fighting in the dream world did not guarantee death. Once he suffered a strong mental attack, if he could not resist it, his will would be obliterated, which was equivalent to death. After another 4 days, the list of people who had defeated their own mirror image and qualified to participate in the third round of the Shura selection was finally released. In the entire Shura prefecture, there were more than 100,000 talented martial practitioners under the age of 40 who were qualified to participate in the competition in the dream world. In the second round of the Shura selection, the overall passing rate of defeating one's own mirror image was less than 1%. However, there were still more than 100,000 martial practitioners who participated in the competition in the dream world. This showed how many people in the entire Shura prefecture possessed extremely high martial arts talent. As one of the best among them, it was completely normal for Shu Chan to be able to step into the 4 divine power realm at such a young age. On this day, the third round of the Shura selection began. Shu Chan led the crowd and flew directly to the attribute stone floating above the Shura square. Through the attribute stone, they were directly transported to the dream world. After entering the dream world, everyone's location was completely random. It was not easy to reunite with friends who had entered the dream world with them. Moreover, the terrain of the dream world in every Shura selection was completely different. This was because the dream world that Shu Chan's mother had set up would change every once in a while. Even if someone's elder had participated in the competition in the dream world, that experience was not very useful to this batch of martial practitioners. In this dream realm, martial cultivators could only rely on themselves. When everyone's martial Dao realm was suppressed to the human initial realm, the only things that could decide the outcome of the battle were the martial cultivators' comprehension of the nature of their energy, the grade of their martial skills, their comprehension of their cultivation, and their combat weapons. Of course, the most important factor was their combat awareness. However, this was not difficult for Long Yu. Long Yu was born with extremely strong combat awareness and talent. Now that he was at the human initial realm, he would not be at a disadvantage when fighting others. When Long Yu opened his eyes, the first thing that entered his eyes was a boundless dark space. He moved his feet slightly and felt that there was a layer of ground in the dark space in front of him. At this moment, he was standing on that rough ground. A cool breeze blew in all directions. The yin qi hidden in the wind made Long Yu feel a little uncomfortable. This dream world. Long Yu raised his hand and directly condensed the power of the solar law into the heavenly mandate divine light. A solar flame light ball that looked like a small sun directly emitted a strong light, illuminating the entire space around it. This made Long Yu realize that it was actually an underground cave. The dream world seems to be an underground space with a complicated terrain. Long Yu surveyed his surroundings, his heart growing more vigilant. In such a dark and strange place, he was the first to use the power of the solar law to illuminate the surroundings. If there was someone nearby, they would definitely discover him immediately and launch a sneak attack. Chapter 503. Long Yu did not expect that the scene in the dream realm this time would be a dark underground space where he could not even see his own fingers. He could only see his surroundings if he used the power of the solar laws to gather light. When he used the solar laws, Long Yu immediately became alert. As expected, just as he released the solar flame law and observed his surroundings, a figure suddenly ambushed him from the shadows. Nice kill. The person who came snorted, and with boundless killing intent, he launched a sneak attack on Long Yu. This person had never seen Long Yu before, so he was completely unguarded against Long Yu. He gathered the power of the ice laws of heaven and earth and attacked Long Yu. However, he had completely underestimated Long Yu's strength. When the power of the ice laws of heaven and earth attacked, a pitch-black barrier gathered around Long Yu. It was a defensive technique that combined the underworld barrier and the reincarnation barrier. They were both at the human initial realm, but the power of the ice laws that the opponent released could not break through the defense of Long Yu's two moves. Die! Long Yu stretched out his hand and pointed. Suddenly, a burst of solar law condensed in his hand, forming a burst of heavenly mandate divine light of the solar law. Then, the heavenly mandate divine light burst out with a burst of red light, enveloping the figure that suddenly attacked. The heavenly mandate divine light was an acquired power. When it was used with the solar laws of heaven and earth, its destructive power far exceeded that of an ordinary earth-level martial skill. It could even reach the level of a heaven-level martial skill. With just one move, Long Yu directly destroyed the sneak attack and blasted him out of the dream realm. Increased murderous intent. After killing a person in the dream realm, Long Yu felt a special murderous intent emanating from his body. This murderous intent seemed to have an endless attraction to martial cultivators who were also in the dream realm. If others killed Long Yu, they would be able to snatch this murderous intent from him. At the end of the dream realm, the martial cultivator's results would be ranked according to the intensity of the murderous intent. The more people they killed, the stronger the murderous intent. Light red murderous intent. This is only the first color of murderous intent. According to the 7 colors of the rainbow, red, orange, yellow, green, cyan, blue, and purple, I need to at least reach the 5th layer of cyan murderous intent to enter the top 100. Long Yu recalled the words that Shu Chan and Rin Pingfan had said to him previously, and he was thoroughly prepared to engage in a bitter battle. Everyone who came to the dream realm came to kill. The more they killed, the more they killed, the more murderous intent they would gather, and the more murderous intent they could gather. From the moment they stepped into the dream realm, there was only one outcome for every martial cultivator. They would either be eliminated, or they would persevere to the last 100 and become a powerhouse recognized by the Shura County King and obtain the qualifications to enter the Shura County's holy land. After killing one, Long Yu condensed a light red murderous intent, but this was only the beginning. There were more than 100,000 powerful martial cultivators in the dream realm. How could it be easy to enter the top 100? In the end, the strong and the strong would meet each other. 6 hours passed. Long Yu traversed the pitch-black underground space. After familiarizing himself with the terrain, he withdrew the light ball condensed from the law of sun-fire and began to rely on his intuition and other senses to explore his surroundings. This way, Long Yu would not be easily discovered by others, and it would be easier for him to ambush others. This was because in this dream realm underground space, many people had released flames to illuminate the surroundings. Such people were like live targets for Long Yu, especially with Long Yu's tyrannical strength. There was no one who could withstand even a single move from him. In this dream realm, everyone's cultivation was at the human initial realm. It was impossible to suppress Long Yu in this kind of situation. If he wanted to defeat Long Yu, it would be even more difficult. As long as there were no accidents, Long Yu would definitely enter the top 100. As for whether he could surpass Bai Qing, that would depend on what happened next. Everyone is very cautious. While hunting others, they're also doing their best to ensure their own safety. In these 6 hours, I've only ambushed and killed 8 people. Long Yu continued to hide in the darkness as he pondered. In these 6 hours, he had killed 8 people. 3 of them already had a light red murderous intent. So Long Yu had plundered them all. At this moment, the murderous intent on Long Yu's body had already turned into a light orange color, becoming the 2nd layer of murderous intent. It was even more eye-catching and could be easily sensed by others. In this kind of situation, some martial practitioners who were not confident in themselves would naturally avoid Long Yu. As soon as they sensed the light orange murderous intent on Long Yu's body, they would immediately move far away, not giving Long Yu any chance. Only a few martial cultivators who were extremely confident in themselves would come to find trouble with Long Yu. And these kinds of people were precisely the type that Long Yu liked the most. If everyone avoided Long Yu, then Long Yu would not be able to kill too many people. However, if someone took the initiative to come looking for him, then Long Yu would not be polite at all. A figure shrouded in crimson murderous intent suddenly sprang out from behind a boulder. In the darkness, it launched a fatal attack at Long Yu. Feeling the cold aura coming from his side, Long Yu's face darkened. His whole body was as still as a mountain, and he directly condensed the divine light of heavenly mandate with the law of sunfire. Light explosion. The power of the flame suddenly burst out, but the figure with crimson murderous intent turned back and directly avoided the range of the light explosion. It could be seen that when it launched a sneak attack, it was prepared not to make a fatal attack, so as to leave a way out for itself. Even so what? The corner of Long Yu's mouth rose slightly. He threw a backhand punch, condensing the infinite power of the law of 9 serenities. The first explosion of the Nether Dragon 9 explosions suddenly sounded, and the figure who launched the sneak attack directly took a few steps back, spitting out a large mouthful of blood. Great desolation, level martial skill. The man snorted in a deep voice. Regardless of his serious injuries, he directly turned around and wanted to escape. However, how could Long Yu give him the opportunity to escape? Die. Long Yu chased closely and continued to perform the second explosion of the Nether Dragon 9 explosions. After 7 illusory dragon roars, the figure shrouded in crimson murderous intent was directly blasted into pieces by the tyrannical power and expelled from the dream world. And the crimson murderous intent around the figure was all absorbed by Long Yu, making the light orange murderous intent on his body slightly brighter. It seems that killing 1 person can give me crimson murderous intent, and killing 10 people will give me orange murderous intent. In this case, if I want to condense yellow murderous intent, I have to kill at least 100 people. Of course, some of the opponents already have a lot of murderous intent. If I directly plunder and absorb it, it will be faster. Long Yu's eyes lit up, and he roughly figured out how the murderous intent on his body condensed. The rules of the dream world were not complicated and were even extremely simple and easy to understand. But it was not easy to survive until the end. After Long Yu killed the sneak attack, he continued to move forward and soon came near a pitch-black swamp. Rise! Long Yu wanted to soar into the sky, but he found that in this dream world, he only had the cultivation of the early human stage, so he couldn't fly fast even if he wanted to. Not only that, but the underground world of the dream world was also covered by a strange pressure, making it impossible for him to fly more than 10 feet. This swamp seems to be very suitable for a martial cultivator to ambush and launch sneak attacks. I have to be careful. Long Yu didn't let his guard down at all. He flew forward with extreme caution, and the light orange murderous intent on his body was especially conspicuous in the sky above the swamp. Suddenly, the indistinct sounds of fighting could be heard from ahead, attracting Long Yu's attention. I've come across people fighting so quickly. Not bad. If possible, I'll directly be the fisherman and kill both sides. With this thought in mind, Long Yu flew directly towards the battle, at the same time using the power of the hidden divine rune. Using the power of the rune was very taxing on the mental strength of a martial cultivator. So unless it was under special circumstances, Long Yu didn't want to use the power of the hidden divine rune. But right now, he wanted to be the fisherman, so using the hidden divine rune was necessary for him to ambush others. When he faintly came to the front, he found that the situation was a bit unexpected. One of the parties fighting above the swamp was actually someone that Long Yu knew, Man Xin from Heavenly Mandate Island. The strong young man was still wearing animal skin clothes at this time, holding the black level medium grade long knife that the Heavenly Mandate Saint had chosen. He waved it vigorously, and his whole body was shrouded in a layer of red killing intent. There was a fierce look on his face, and around Man Xin, there were actually 4 martial cultivators surrounding him, each of them looking fierce. They were obviously a small group of robbers here. Such a small group was very common in the dream world, because here, everyone had a cultivation of the human initial realm, so numbers were very important. Many people, after entering the dream world, would team up with the first person they met, forming such a small group to kill other martial cultivators, so that they could accumulate as much murderous intent as possible. Hee hee, looks like I'm in luck. Among the group of four, one of the skinny men snickered. This person actually has a deep red killing intent, but it's my turn to kill him. We all have an agreement, so you guys are not allowed to fight over it. Nonsense. We only agreed to kill those ordinary martial cultivators in turns. Another burly man spat. This person has gathered red murderous intent, so it's not normal. So we should attack together, and whoever succeeds will get it. Don't talk nonsense. A long night is fraught with trouble. Let's first. Chapter 504. Long Yu used the hidden divine character and hid at the side. He was not in a hurry to attack. He wanted to see to what extent Man Xion's strength had improved. Based on the crimson-red killing intent that enveloped Man Xion wasn't weak at all. Based on the depth of the color, that kid has killed at least 5 opponents. His strength is obviously extraordinary, and he definitely has some extraordinary trump cards. Long Yu's eyes narrowed as he hid at the side. He intended to observe Man Xion's strength first, and he would lend a hand if Man Xion couldn't do it. While the four of them were still discussing about who should kill Man Xion actually took the initiative to attack first. Blade lights filled the sky, and like a violent gale, it swept towards the 4 people around him. That kid actually dared to attack first. Let's cripple him first, and then we'll discuss who should kill him. The skinny man who spoke first revealed a cruel smile on his face. The iron chain in his hand suddenly swept out and directly crushed the saber light that was attacking him. He's actually able to execute and acquire divine ability as well. Long Yu's eyes narrowed as he hid in the shadows. He discerned that the method the thin man had used to throw the iron chain was definitely an acquired divine ability. Acquired God art was a rather powerful martial technique. If it was an Earth-class acquired God art, its power would definitely be comparable to a Heaven-class martial technique. If it was a Heaven-class acquired God art, it would be able to compete with a Great Desolate-class martial technique to a certain extent. The thin man naturally hadn't executed an acquired divine ability, but even if it was an Earth-rank acquired divine ability, it was absolutely not something that Man Xion could resist. Not to mention that there were 4 of them attacking Man Xion. Long Yu maintained his composure and didn't attack. In the next moment, a wave of the smell of blood suddenly swept out, and the robust Man Xion had actually transformed into a ray of blood-red saber light that slashed towards the iron chain in the thin man's hand. Blood-clotting saber shadow, Man Xion shouted, and the ray of blood-red saber light tore through the defensive net condensed by the thin man with unstoppable force. The skinny man's expression changed drastically, and he hurriedly executed an Earth-grade acquired divine skill in an attempt to block Man Xion's blood-red saber shadow. However, even an acquired divine ability martial skill was unable to withstand Man Xion's slash. Blood saber cut. Man Xion roared furiously, and the blood-red saber light almost filled the entire dark space. Then, the thin man was cut in half by the blood-red saber shadow, and his face still wore an expression of disbelief. After being sliced in half, there was no way for him to survive. However, before the skinny man was sent out of the dream realm, he threw out the iron chain with all his might, and it wrapped around Man Xion's entire body. This entanglement directly hindered Man Xion's movements. Even if he transformed into the blood shadow saber light, it would still take him some time to break through the iron chains. Meanwhile, the other 3 seized this opportunity to attack Man Xion. Die! Among them, the skinny and haggard young man's eyes were filled with greed, and he threw out 2 flying sabers one after another, and they were about to pierce into Man Xion's chest. At this time, Man Xion was bound by the iron chains, and he could not move at all. He could only watch as the 2 flying sabers flew toward him. Although his eyes were wide open in anger, it was of no use. Right at this moment, a pitch-black beam of light suddenly shot out from the side and instantly struck the 2 flying daggers, causing them to be blasted away. So it's 2 heaven-grade combat weapons. No wonder they were so powerful. Long Yu chuckled, and then he withdrew the hidden character from the darkness and slowly stepped out. His steps were not big, but in just 2 steps he had already crossed a distance of dozens of feet and arrived in front of the crowd. Then he raised his hand, and a pitch-black and strange power once again spread out, completely enveloping the 3 people around him. Heavenly mandate, divine light, explosion of light. With a single thought from Long Yu, the pitch-black power immediately exploded, causing the airflow in the area to rumble, and the corners of Long Yu's clothes fluttered in the wind, while the 3 people who were focused on Man Xian were severely injured by the explosion. The acquired Earth-grade divine light, heavenly mandate divine light, was extremely terrifying when it was activated by the Yu character. Even though the 3 people had joined forces to defend against it, they were unable to completely block it, and each of them suffered injuries to their internal organs. Who is it? The haggard young man's face instantly darkened, and he stared at Long Yu. It's you. When he saw Long Yu's face clearly, it was as if he had recognized Long Yu's identity, and he immediately turned around and ran without hesitation. This caused the faces of the other 2 to darken. Could it be that this kid who had suddenly appeared out of nowhere was very famous? Although the 2 did not know Long Yu's identity, they could tell that he was extremely difficult to deal with when they saw the orange murderous intent on Long Yu's body. Judging from the fact that Long Yu's sudden attack had severely injured all 3 of them, they were definitely no match for Long Yu. The martial cultivators who had come to the Dream Realm were not idiots, and they would not fight to the death even if they knew they were no match for Qi Nan. The haggard young man might have entered the Dream Realm in the Azura Valley, and thus he recognized Long Yu's identity and fled without hesitation. However, the other 2 were half a beat slower. 9 explosions of the Dark Dragon. Long Yu threw out 2 punches, and 2 dragon roars sounded in the ears of the 2 people, accompanied by a terrifying destructive force, directly sending them out of the Dream Realm. Since you've seen me, there's no need to run. Long Yu sneered. Looking at the fleeing, skinny young man, his figure flashed, and he directly used Ancient Desolate Shadow Kill. Under the burst of shadow flow, one of Long Yu's afterimages caught up with the skinny young man at an extremely fast speed, turning into a pitch-black sharp blade that pierced through the skinny young man's chest. With his heart meridian destroyed, the skinny young man's face was filled with unwillingness. Before he could even look at Long Yu, he was turned into a burst of white light by the Dream Realm and was sent out of the Dream Realm. From the moment Long Yu appeared to the moment the 3 people were killed, only a few breaths had passed. During this time, Man Xian finally exploded with all the strength in his body, shattering the chains that bound him. Then, he raised his head and saw Long Yu's figure, and his blood-stained face showed a hint of excitement. "Ha, Brother Long, it's you." Man Xian laughed, wiped the blood off his face, and directly flew toward Long Yu. "It's me, Brother Man. It's been a long time since we've met again." Long Yu smiled, turned around, and lightly punched Man Xian's shoulder. Man Xian didn't care at all, and also punched Long Yu's shoulder. "I didn't expect to see you here. Brother Long, how have you been these days?" "Not too bad," Long Yu said directly, "but I saw you use a powerful martial arts technique just now. That kind of martial arts technique doesn't exist on the Heavenly Mandate continent." Hee. The blood coagulation saber shadow was taught to me by a woman called the Azura Countess. Man Xian replied with a smile, with a touch of yearning and admiration in his eyes. "That Azura princess is beautiful, and so is she. She seems to have come from another world. I don't know why she helped me, but that blood coagulation shadow is definitely better than all the martial arts techniques on the Heavenly Mandate continent. It's a heaven-level martial arts technique, and it's also an acquired martial arts technique." Long Yu's eyes lit up. A heaven-level acquired martial arts technique. If you can learn it, it will be extremely powerful, even comparable to a desolate-level martial arts technique. I didn't expect Shu-chan to go to Heavenly Mandate Island and bring you such a powerful martial arts technique. Shu-chan? Man Xian was confused when he heard the name. Shu-chan is the Azura princess you mentioned. Now, I'm working for her. Long Yu smiled slightly. Then, he briefly told Man Xian what had happened after he left Heavenly Mandate Island. Man Xian quickly understood who Shu Chan was and the question that had been bothering him for a long time. Why did the Azura princess help him? Man Xian couldn't figure it out for a long time. But now, he knew that the Azura princess helped him because of Long Yu. Shu Chan, the Azura princess, seemed to value Long Yu so much that she went to Heavenly Mandate Island in person and gave Long Yu's friends a big gift. The Azura princess appeared and gave me a set of heaven-level elixirs. She said it was the Sky 9 Universe elixir and the martial arts technique of the blood coagulation shadow. It turns out that it is not only a heaven-level martial arts technique, but also an acquired martial arts technique, which is stronger than ordinary heaven-level martial arts techniques. When Man Xian heard Long Yu's words, he suddenly saw the light. I owe her even more now. Long Yu thought to himself. Shu Chan helped him so much, but there was not much he could do to repay Shu Chan. The only thing he could do was to improve his martial arts level so that he could repay her in the future. At least this time, he could not lose the bet with Bai Qing. Otherwise, not only would he lose face, but also Shu Chan's and Shu Chan's third brother, Sahan Shan's. The killing intent on your body has also turned light orange. Long Yu glanced at Man Xian and said. Before he could help, Man Xian had already killed the skinny man and absorbed his killing intent, causing the killing intent around his body to turn orange. Orange killing intent, but it is only the second level. Man Xian frowned slightly. If you want to be taken away from Heavenly Mandate Island, it is said that you have to be in the top 10,000 of this selection. I wonder how many people participated in this selection. There are more than 100,000 people. Since you have orange killing intent, you are already qualified to be taken away from Heavenly Mandate Island. Long Yu smiled and said casually, you have been helped by the Azura princess and cultivated a heaven-level acquired martial arts technique. If you still can't be in the top 10,000, aren't you too weak? Man Xian's talent was not weak, and he had the determination to face death calmly. He was extremely fierce when fighting. Chapter 505. When Man Xian heard what Long Yu said, he nodded his head and thought that it was true. He had cultivated the blood coagulation shadow given to him by Shu Chan. This set of heaven-level acquired martial arts techniques surpassed all the martial arts techniques on Heavenly Mandate Island. If he still could not leave Heavenly Mandate Island with this, then he would be too weak. Since we've met, let's go together. We can look out for each other. Long Yu said to Man Xian. I'll listen to you. Brother Long. Man Xian chuckled. He would not reject Long Yu's suggestion. Moreover, it will be much safer if they move together. In the previous situation, although Man Xian could easily defeat an opponent in a one-on-one fight, if there were other enemies attacking him at the same time, he would not be able to resist at all. The martial cultivators who participated in the battle in the Dream Realm had all gone through the first 2 rounds of the Shura selection. They were at least geniuses, and none of them were weak. Although the martial cultivators' martial arts realms were all suppressed to the human initial realm, they still had their battle awareness and could use the techniques they had learned. Although Man Xian had cultivated a heaven-level acquired technique, it was still very difficult for him to fight one against many. He was not like Long Yu, who had comprehended the strongest law of heaven and earth, the law of the underworld, comprehended the divine character Yu, and cultivated a desolate-level technique. Any one of these was stronger than a heaven-level technique of the secret realm. This was Long Yu's biggest advantage in the dream realm. When everyone's martial arts realms were suppressed to the same human initial realm, Long Yu's battle strength would be much stronger than the others. Unless he encountered an expert of the secret realm who could use innate skills, it would still be a little troublesome to deal with. The two of them traveled together, flying 100 feet above the swamp and heading into the distance. If he wanted to get a better result in this battle, he had to kill more martial cultivators in order to make his killing intent even stronger. As Long Yu and Man Xian teamed up and headed in a certain direction, A fierce battle was taking place not far away. Two martial arts cultivators from Heavenly Mandate Island, Ji Tianxi and Xuelan, happened to meet each other in the dream world. They formed a team and traveled together in the dream world. In the beginning, the two of them relied on their teamwork to hunt down a few lone martial cultivators, causing their bodies to be shrouded in a light red killing intent. However, when they stepped above a swamp, they were suddenly ambushed. Three martial cultivators from other places suddenly exploded, and like fierce tigers, they charged towards the two of them. It was obvious that the three martial cultivators had been lying in ambush here for a long time. When they saw Ji Tianxi and Xuelan, they were like hungry tigers pouncing on sheep. Their bodies were filled with a scarlet killing intent, determined to tear the two of them into pieces. Be careful! Ji Tianxi was originally a young genius of Heavenly Cloud Soar Nation on Heavenly Mandate Island. After joining the Northern Academy of Heavenly Mandate Island, he received considerable training, and his strength improved very quickly. Seeing that the other party was coming, Ji Tianxi directly used the Heavenly Mandate Divine Light and activated the power of law of his Heavenly Cloud Sword Qi, and a terrifying power burst out in an instant. However, the other party was a team of three, and each of them was shrouded in a scarlet killing intent. It was obvious that they were not weak at all. Yo, there's an acquired Earth-level skill. Among the three, a young man in white curled up the corner of his mouth and said in a somewhat playful manner. Then he raised his hand, and a snow-white sword Qi flew out like a beam of moonlight, instantly covering Ji Tianxi's body. Ji Tianxi could not resist at all. Even if he used the Heavenly Mandate Divine Light, he could not completely resist the snow-white moonlight sword Qi. In an instant, Ji Tianxi was shrouded by the snow-white moonlight sword Qi, and then he was cut into pieces. Seeing the scene happening in front of her, Xuelan, who was also a disciple of the Heavenly Mandate Sacred Academy on Heavenly Mandate Island, suddenly changed her expression. However, she reacted very quickly and immediately said, "Everyone, it is fate that we met. Why do we have to fight to the death? Why don't we unite and have another layer of protection in this dream world?" As soon as she said this, the three people surrounded her in the center and stared at her for a while. The young man in white smiled and said, "Your strength is too weak. You won't have any meat to eat if you follow us. It's fine if you want to follow us, and we can also give you some meat to eat. However, the condition is that you could be the bait and lure others over." Xuelan's expression changed slightly when she heard this. She felt that it was too dangerous. However, on second thought, if she did not agree to this condition, would she not be immediately killed by the three people together? With just a thought, she immediately nodded and said, "No problem. I can lure others over for you, but on the condition that I join you." Xuelan could see that the young man in white was the leader of the three people, and his combat strength was extremely strong. The snow-white moonlight sword Qi that he displayed just now was definitely more powerful than the Heavenly Mandate Divine Light. Such a strong person already had a great advantage in the dream world, not to mention that the three of them were working together. Xuelan thought that if she followed these people, even if she only picked up some of the scraps, she could still kill a lot of people, and there was a hope for her to leave Heavenly Mandate Island. After each of us kills two, you can kill one. Now you can go and lure others over. The young man in white nodded with satisfaction and then waved to a young man in a black robe beside him. The young man in black had a ferocious look, and the corner of his mouth curled up slightly. He released a beam of black light, which directly wrapped around Xuelan. "Don't play tricks or take the opportunity to escape. Otherwise, I can immediately take your life." Xuelan was wrapped by this beam of black light, and suddenly felt that the meridians in her body were somewhat blocked. It seemed that this beam of black light had merged with the meridians in her body. Just as the young man in black said, if Xuelan made any strange movements, he could directly take her life. Such a soft and tender girl, and you are willing to do this to her? Another bald young man in a big red robe suddenly laughed. "Why don't you hand her over to me and let me have some fun?" I can guarantee that she will be obedient and never betray me." Hearing this, Shuelan's originally white face suddenly became pale. If that was the case, she might as well die. Anyway, dying in the dream world was not a real death. At worst, she would just lose a chance to leave Heavenly Mandate Island. "All right, shut up. Someone is coming. Let's hide." The white-clothed young man in the lead snorted coldly. This snort caused the black-robed young man and the red-robed bald young man to fall silent. In the next moment, both of them used their movement techniques and disappeared from Shuelan's sight, including the young man in white. The three of them disappeared without a trace in the time of a breath, hiding in the nearby swamp. No matter how Shuelan released her senses, she could not detect the existence of the three of them. It was obvious that the three of them were very strong. Perhaps among all the experts participating in the battle in the dream world, the three of them stood at the top. There are indeed people coming in front of us. For now, I will do as they said and lure those people to this ambush. Shuelan felt the movement of people flying not far away and quickly began to prepare. Long Yu and Man Xin flew forward together. Soon, they saw a beautiful figure in a white dress flying above the swamp. She seemed to be a little lost and did not know where to go. "It's Shuelan." Seeing this, Man Xin was a little surprised. After Shuelan joined the Northern Academy of Heavenly Mandate Realm, her talent is quite good, and she also obtained the qualification to cultivate the Heavenly Mandate Divine Light. Recently, she has been quite successful, and she has been nice to me and Yin Huanimo Shuelan. Long Yu squinted his eyes. He looked at Shuelan in a white dress and thought of some things that had happened in the Heavenly Mandate Divine Selection. In the Heavenly Mandate Divine Selection, he did not have any conflict with Shuelan, and they did not have much contact. He did not expect to meet her in the dream world. "How about we bring her along?" Man Xin was a little hesitant. He looked back at Long Yu, obviously letting Long Yu make the decision. "Let's go and ask her what's going on." Long Yu nodded. He did not object, but he did not agree either. He had already sensed through the Yu character that there was a black power inside Shuelan's body that was threatening her. The power of that black power was definitely not at the level of a heaven-level martial arts technique. It was very likely that it was an extension of some kind of innate magic. Of course, Shuelan can't use innate magic. So, this woman might have encountered something with vigilance in his heart. Long Yu approached Shuelan with Man Xin. "It's you guys." As Long Yu and Man Xin approached, Shuelan was able to clearly see their faces. She was immediately shocked. Shuelan was not very surprised to see Man Xin, because she already knew that Man Xin had stepped into this dream world like she had. However, when Shuelan saw Long Yu, she was shocked. That was because she had not seen Long Yu for a long time. On the entire Heavenly Mandate Island, there were only legends related to Long Yu. It was said that he defeated a beast king from another world and saved the Heavenly Mandate Island. Then, he broke through the 1,000 layers of sky and left the Heavenly Mandate Island. But only a few people knew the truth, and Shuelan was not one of them. Her level was still too low, and in the end, she could only hear some rumors. Seeing Long Yu again under these circumstances made Shuelan's heart skip a beat. To her, Long Yu had long been an extremely powerful and talented martial arts cultivator. After not seeing him for such a long time, Long Yu must have become even more powerful. But even so, could Long Yu deal with the young man in white and the other two? Chapter 506. Shuelan did not reveal any unusual expression on her face. Only the shock of seeing Long Yu surfaced on her exquisite and pretty face. "It's you, Long Yu. Long time no see," said Shuelan as she walked up to him. Shuelan spoke as she walked over. Her delicate figure was enchanting, cold, elegant, and charming. However, the more it was like this, the more Long Yu felt that something was wrong. Logically speaking, Shuelan shouldn't be so friendly to him. This caused Long Yu to be even more vigilant in the depths of his heart. Why are you stopping here?" asked Long Yu with a hint of confusion. I just defeated someone and suffered some internal injuries. I can only rest here for a while. Xuelan's pretty face was filled with splendor. She glanced at Long Yu and Man Xen. Why don't you wait for me for a while? I only need a bit of time to recover from my internal injuries and move together with you. What do you think? Moving together is not a bad idea. After all, there is strength in numbers. However, how are your internal injuries? Are they serious? Asked Long Yu. I should be fine, but it's too dangerous to heal here. Let's move closer to the ground. Xuelan spoke as she flew towards the surface of the swamp below. Man Xin didn't think too much and immediately followed. However, at this moment, a snow-white moonlight sword Qi suddenly appeared from the swamp below and attacked Man Xin. Man Xin was caught off guard. The speed of the snow-white moonlight sword Qi caught him off guard. He only had time to show a hint of surprise before he felt like he was about to be torn to pieces by the snow-white moonlight sword Qi. The next moment, it's a natural ability. Impressive, impressive. Long Yu laughed. He was already on guard, but when the snow-white moonlight sword Qi appeared, he immediately reacted, allowing him to immediately come up with a countermeasure. Sort of samsara barrier. A dark gray long sword condensed from the power of samsara appeared in Long Yu's hand. He casually swung it, and a gray light of samsara surged out. The gray light slashed across the snow-white moonlight sword Qi and immediately reduced the power of the sword Qi by more than half. The sword of reincarnation could directly weaken the opponent's martial technique or their own strength. It was an indirect method of combat and did not have any specific destructive power. When the sword of reincarnation slashed out, it directly weakened the power of the opponent's innate magic by more than half. At the same time, Long Yu's reincarnation barrier also condensed. A strange dark gray light barrier appeared, directly blocking the opponent's weakened snow-white moonlight sword Qi. Puff! When the reincarnation barrier faced the Khanate sword Qi, it was shattered in one move. However, the Khanate sword Qi, whose power had been reduced by more than half, didn't have any more power left. Instead, it was completely rebounded by the reincarnation barrier. The white-robed young man who had suddenly launched a sneak attack was startled. He waved his hand, summoning a snow-white barrier in front of him. It easily blocked the rebounded Khanate sword Qi. At the same time, the black-robed young man and the red-robed bald young man also launched their attacks, targeting Long Yu. From the previous scene, they knew that between Long Yu and Man Xin, it was obvious that Long Yu posed a greater threat to them. Therefore, they obviously wanted to get rid of Long Yu first. Unfortunately, they had underestimated Long Yu's strength. They thought that it would be a piece of cake for two divine ability secret realm experts who had comprehended innate divine abilities to join forces to deal with the kid, even if their cultivation was suppressed to the human origin realm. A blood-red brilliance surged out, forming a blood-red vortex in midair. It unexpectedly sucked the red-robed bald youth into it. In other words, the bald youth had transformed into the blood-red vortex and was pouncing towards Long Yu. It was an exceptionally bloody scene. Meanwhile, the black-robed young man had formed 3 pitch-black rays, which turned into 3 ghostly claws that slashed at Long Yu. Long Yu immediately realized that he was the one who had injured Xuelan after sensing the Khanate divine ability of the black-robed young man. Moreover, now that the 3 of them had completely ignored Xuelan and were directly attacking him and Man Xin, it was very likely that Xuelan was in cahoots with them. These 3 guys all possess Khanate divine abilities. Impressive. Long Yu squinted his eyes, but now was not the time for him to be immersed in his thoughts. Facing the duo's Khanate divine abilities, Long Yu only had one choice: fight. Against the Khanate divine abilities, it was impossible for Long Yu to use ordinary methods. If he did not use the Yu divine rune or a grand desolate level martial skill, he would not be able to suppress the trio. He might even be killed by them. Long Yu was very clear about where he was stronger than others. He was even clearer about when he should conserve his strength and when he should use his full strength. Primordial desolate level shadow kill. Without any hesitation, Long Yu immediately executed a grand desolate level martial skill. In the next moment, two afterimages separated from Long Yu's body, each turning into a pitch-black sharp blade that pierced the opponent's connate divine ability. The bald young man in a red robe turned into a blood-colored whirlpool, trying to suck Long Yu into it and turn him into its food. However, in the next moment, one of Long Yu's primordial afterimages transformed into a pitch-black sharp blade that pierced directly into the blood-colored vortex, and it actually blasted the blood-colored vortex apart with ease. Meanwhile, the other afterimage that turned into a pitch-black sharp blade executed a shadow flow technique and slashed the three pitch-black ghostly claws that the black-robed young man had formed at an extremely fast speed. What? The bald young man in a red robe and the black-robed young man were startled. Sensing the terrifying power of Long Yu's attack, they were sure that Long Yu's attack was definitely a grand desolate level martial skill. Otherwise, it was impossible for his attack to shatter their connate divine abilities so easily. Isn't this the Nightmare Legion's demon slaughter technique? However, these afterimages seem to be stronger. The two afterimages are equivalent to increasing his combat power by 3 times. Even if it's 1 against 3, he won't be at a disadvantage. An evil light flickered in the eyes of the red-robed bald youth. The blood-red whirlpools around his body, which had been destroyed by the primordial afterimages, rapidly condensed together. Immediately after, his entire body streaked across the pitch-black sky. In the blink of an eye, he arrived in front of Long Yu, leaving behind only a blood-red stream of light. Die. When the red-robed, bald youth saw the faint orange killing intent radiating from Long Yu's body, he knew that this person was definitely not easy to deal with. However, no matter how difficult it was to deal with him, he wouldn't let him off so easily. One must know that as long as he could kill Long Yu, all the killing intent condensed on Long Yu's body would belong to him. Due to his confidence in his powerful innate techniques, he approached Long Yu without hesitation. He wanted to manipulate the blood-colored whirlpool to surround and devour Long Yu. However, Long Yu let out a roar. A dragon roar instantly resounded in the ears of the bald young man in a red robe, causing him to be stunned in the air. Underworld Dragon 9 explosions, Dragon Heart Decree, explode. As Long Yu performed this technique, the heart of the bald young man in a red robe was instantly controlled by Long Yu. In just a moment, the heart of the bald young man in a red robe exploded. He did not even manage to hold on for a breath of time. I'm more familiar with this technique now. Maybe I can successfully comprehend it to the transcendent realm the next time I use it. Long Yu's eyes flickered with brilliance. If he could comprehend the Underworld Dragon 9 explosions further, his strength would rise to another level. However, he was still lacking now. After all, it was not easy to comprehend a great desolate level technique to the transcendent realm. Even if Long Yu had already touched the threshold, if he wanted to cross that threshold, he still needed to put in more effort. When he performed the Dragon Heart Decree, a wave of underworld law power enveloped the bald young man in a red robe completely. Then, it shattered his heart meridian and crushed him to death. The murderous intent on the bald young man was completely absorbed by Long Yu, causing the murderous intent around him to darken. Ancient desolate shadow kill, shadow flow burst. With a nether dragon blade in his hand, Long Yu turned into a stream of light and stabbed at the other young man in a black robe. As Long Yu moved, a pitch-black light gathered toward the nether dragon blade in his hand. The sharp blade slashed across the sky above the swamp, aiming for the young man in a black robe. The young man in a black robe immediately reacted. With the experience of the bald young man in a red robe, he no longer dared to underestimate the current Long Yu. He immediately took a deep breath. The next moment, the young man in a black robe instantly expanded like a balloon. Waves of pitch-black ripples spread in all directions, trying to force Long Yu back with a strong impact. This defense is not bad, but it's a pity. A murderous intent flickered in Long Yu's eyes. The nether dragon blade in his hand slashed forward and pierced through the pitch-black ripples, Facing the ancient weapon, the nether dragon blade, martial cultivators in the same realm as Long Yu stood no chance. The black-robed martial cultivator was obviously unable to resist Long Yu's attack. In less than a breath's time, the nether dragon blade pierced his heart meridian. You. A look of disbelief appeared on the black-robed martial cultivator's face. Then he turned into a white light and was sent out of the dream realm, losing the right to continue fighting in this world. In the blink of an eye, Long Yu had killed 2 people. This scene caused Man Xin, who was standing behind him, to be dumbstruck. Xuelan's mouth was wide open, unable to close it. 3 experts that had comprehended innate abilities should be extremely powerful even if their cultivation was suppressed to the mortal origin realm. Chapter 507. The rapid change in the situation caused the nervous Xuelan's expression to change slightly. Her eyes were filled with a complicated expression as she looked at Long Yu, who had killed 2 people in an instant. Long Yu has improved far too quickly. To think that he has already reached such a level in such a short period of time. Xuelan smiled bitterly. Once upon a time, she, Xuelan, had joined the Northern Academy of the Heavenly Mandate Realm as a celestial being. At that time, although Long Yu had not yet reached the celestial realm, he had already made a name for himself in the Heavenly Mandate Sacred Selection. Now that Long Yu had once again appeared before her, he had become even more powerful than she had imagined. If I'm not wrong, the white-clothed, red-clothed, and black-clothed youths should be experts of the Divine Ability Secret Stage. Earlier on, they had unleashed their innate divine abilities. However, even so, they were instantly defeated by Long Yu. Xuelan deeply felt the gap between her and Long Yu. She felt a little uneasy, not knowing how Long Yu would treat her in a moment. Looking at the current situation, it was only a matter of time before Long Yu defeated the young man in white. After that, it would probably be her turn. She wanted to leave quietly, but with Man Xin glaring at her from the side, it was absolutely impossible for her to escape. I'll stay here for now. Luring them into a trap is a last resort. I have no other choice, Xuelan thought. If that's the case, I'll tell him my difficulties. Perhaps he won't make things difficult for me, and I might even try to work with him. That way, I'll be much safer in the dream realm. With that thought, Xuelan calmed down and carefully observed the situation. In the battlefield, the battle between Long Yu and the young man in white was extremely intense. The young man in white continuously used his innate powers, and snow-white moonlight sword chi continuously swept out. His attacks were extremely ferocious. However, Long Yu's 2 ancient afterimages were like maggots attached to bones, constantly surrounding him. Their bodies transformed into 2 pitch-black sharp blades, as if they wanted to slice his entire body apart. The white-clothed youth was sweating profusely, but he was still unable to break through Long Yu's attacks. As Long Yu killed the other 2, he joined forces with the primordial shadow to deal with the white-robed youth. The pressure on the white-robed youth increased. Stop. I'm a genius from the Azura Prefecture's Heaven Search sect. If you kill me and prevent me from entering the top 100, the Heaven Search sect will definitely seek revenge. The white-robed young man couldn't hold on any longer and said coldly. He revealed his background in an attempt to intimidate Long Yu. After all, this was the dream world, not the real world. Even if Long Yu killed him, he wouldn't be able to silence him. He still saw Long Yu's appearance, so it would be easy for him to seek revenge. If they were in the real world, the white-clothed youth would not have made such a stupid threat. Instead, he would have taken out some benefits to tempt Long Yu. Dreamscape is a place of life and death. You ambushed me and tried to kill me, so why can't I kill you? Long Yu narrowed his eyes, completely ignoring the other party's threat. The Azura Prefecture's Heaven Search sect? Long Yu didn't know what sect it was. He had only heard of it before. The sect was indeed influential in the Azura Prefecture, but so what? Long Yu's background was the Azura Prefecture's princess, Shuchan. Within the rules, even if Long Yu killed this person, he didn't need to be afraid. Die. Murderous intent flashed in Long Yu's eyes. Then, together with the two primordial shadow, he attacked the white-clothed youth with a nether dragon dagger. After such a long battle, the white-clothed youth was already at the end of his rope because of Long Yu's primordial shadow. At this moment, facing Long Yu's killer move, he could only use his trump card. Kill. The white-clothed youth's eyes were bloodshot. Snow-white moonlight sword chi seeped out of his body, forming a wave of sword chi that surrounded him. With this, he managed to block Long Yu's attack. However, Long Yu's attacks came wave after wave, not giving the white-clothed youth any chance to catch his breath. Endless pitch-black blades attacked the white-clothed youth from different directions. The great desolate martial technique, primordial shadow kill, descended on the white-clothed youth like a nightmare. After a few breaths' time, the white-clothed youth who had used his trump card was still hit by the nether dragon dagger. Then his heart meridian was shattered, and he turned into a white light that was sent out of dreamscape. The ambush that had been planned beforehand was finally solved by Long Yu alone. He fought 1 against 3 and killed all of them. This scene made Man Xion's eyes flash with admiration. Amazing, amazing. Brother Long, you're more than a level stronger than me now. On the path of martial arts, if you don't advance, you'll fall behind. There are always stronger people outside of the strong. You can't slack off. Long Yu casually said a sentence, but this sentence made Man Xion deeply agree with it. Subsequently, Long Yu turned his head around and glanced at Xuelon, and he said indifferently, Xuelon, did you intentionally draw us here and bring Brother Man and I into a trap? Xuelon instantly became nervous when she heard that, and she hurriedly said, Actually, I didn't know that you were here first, and my life was in their hands, so I had no choice. There's no need to say anything more. Now that the black-clothed youth has been sent out of dreamscape, and your injuries have healed, let's split up. After speaking coldly, Long Yu gave Man Xion a look and was about to leave. He didn't care what Xuelan's difficulties were. He only knew that if it wasn't for his strength that far surpassed ordinary cultivators, he and Man Xion would definitely have been eliminated by those 3. As for Xuelon, anyone with a discerning eye could tell that she had lured them here on purpose. Long Yu didn't want to bring someone like that with him. Firstly, he didn't need Xuelan's help, and secondly, he would have to protect her at all times. It was too troublesome. Man Xion and Xuelon were friends, but not very close. When he heard Long Yu's words, he naturally wouldn't retort. He only glanced at Xuelan's beautiful face, then turned around and left with Long Yu. Xuelon heaved a sigh of relief in her heart as she watched them leave, but at the same time, she felt slightly disappointed. She heaved a sigh of relief because Long Yu didn't make things difficult for her and didn't kill her. However, she was disappointed because she couldn't follow Long Yu anymore. From the battle just now, she could easily tell that if she could follow Long Yu, this trip to the dreamscape world would be much easier. Unfortunately, Long Yu didn't bring her along because she was a girl, which made her feel rather disappointed. Long Yu and Man Xion continued on their way. Long Yu had just killed 3 opponents in the secret realm on his own, causing the murderous intent around him to deepen. According to his estimation, he only needed to kill a few more before his murderous intent would advance to the 3rd layer and turn golden. However, since the dreamscape had been opened, more than 90% of the people had been eliminated. None of the remaining martial cultivators were weak. Even Long Yu couldn't guarantee that he would be able to proceed smoothly. Long Yu didn't think anyone would be a match for him in a one-on-one fight. However, it wouldn't be easy for him to deal with a few experts working together. Just now, the so-called genius disciple of the Tiansun sect that the white-robed young man mentioned was only someone who had just stepped into the god's secret realm. He was far from being an expert. If it was Bai Qing, Long Yu would definitely be in a tough battle. Bai Qing was a 5 Daos divine realm expert who had comprehended 5 innate divine abilities. She was proficient in both offense and defense. Her strength wasn't something that the disciples of the Heaven Search sect could compare to. Not to mention that Bai Qing had many followers. although they might not be able to gather together in the dreamscape. As long as a portion of them gathered together, they would still be a formidable force. After being lured into a trap by Xuelon, Long Yu was even more vigilant as he moved forward. He and Man Xian were responsible for observing the left and right directions, just in case something unexpected happened. We've left the swamp. Long Yu quickly discovered that the large swamp below had finally disappeared. In its place was a wilderness filled with rocks. It was still pitch black all around. He couldn't even see his fingers if he stretched out his hand. Long Yu could only condense the sunflame laws to illuminate his surroundings. Not far away, a fiery glow gradually appeared in front of Long Yu and Man Xian. There are traces of a battle ahead, but the people seemed to have disappeared. Man Xian frowned as he approached the fiery ocean with Long Yu. Their eyes widened when they saw the scene before them. There were a few martial cultivators in the fiery ocean. Their bodies were scorched black, and they had lost all signs of life. It wasn't surprising to see dead people. However, it was not a simple matter for someone to die in the dreamscape world. The few martial cultivators who had died had not been sent out of the dreamscape world as white light. It could be seen that they had truly died here in the dreamscape world. Someone used a mental attack to completely kill these people here. Long Yu's face instantly sank. It wasn't impossible to die in the dreamscape. If someone was hit by a powerful psychic attack, there was a chance that they would lose their life. Long Yu initially thought it was rare for something like this to happen, but he didn't expect it to happen right in front of him. A total of 6 people were killed. If I'm not mistaken, the fiery ocean will soon burn their corpses into ashes. Man Xian felt a chill. Killing with a psychic attack, and then using flames to destroy the corpses. The person who did this was definitely a fiendish person who would kill without batting an eye. Kiki. Suddenly, a strange laughter came from all directions towards the two of them, causing them to shudder. Following the laughter, many powerful martial cultivators suddenly appeared in front of Long Yu and Man Xian. One by one, they appeared from the darkness around them, and their figures were revealed by the fiery light. With his keen senses, Long Yu could sense that these martial cultivators were all experts who had reached the secret realm of the God realm. There were more than 20 of them. Even if their cultivation was suppressed to the initial human realm, Long Yu wouldn't be able to withstand the combined attacks of more than 20 innate divine abilities. Wait, it's impossible for so many experts to gather together. Furthermore, they don't have any killing intent. How is it possible that they don't have any killing intent after being in the dreamscape for so long? Long Yu's heart skipped a beat. He squinted his eyes and discovered something strange about the scene. You're tuning in to the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.